And the sun is set in Tulsa. The lights are on at Skelly Field, and we're ready for the Golden Hurricane to play host to the Cougars from BYU. And we welcome you to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Alongside Trev Alberts, I am Tom Hart. Trev, there's a couple things we know about this BYU team. They are physical up front, and they've got a very talented trio in the backfield. Big guys who can scoot a little bit.
Well, you know what? That's the whole key to this game. It's that BYU offensive line. They average over 6'5" and 300 pounds. And you mentioned the running backs, Tom. That's the story of this game. Three physical running backs. You see them here. Tonga at 234 pounds, Vakapuna, and then Harvey Una, the important one here. All three of these runners, we talked to BYU coaches, and they really think that Una is the key to their offense. Had 24 touches in week one when they beat Arizona, only 8 touches last week in their loss to UCLA. They want to get him the ball. You see how big he is, Tom. They're 6'1", they're 235, 40 pounds, low to the ground. BYU has 3 linebackers playing running back. A real key tonight, can Tulsa stop these guys on first contact?
The Cougars take the field looking for the same result they got last year when they put 49 points on the board. Okay, this is a brand new Tulsa offense. It is something the likes of which you probably haven't seen. Through the entire game, it is a hurry-up, one-back, no-huddle set. As Gus Malzahn brings us over from Arkansas, it's a thrill to watch.
It's a lot of fun, and I'm interested to see if it actually works. I mean, here's an offense that really wants to get on the line of scrimmage. 5 seconds after the ball is placed, they want to snap the ball, and they want to dictate to the defense what they're going to do. Bronco Mendenhall told me, look, we'll have the least calls in that we've ever had defensively, and the young man, of course, who makes it go for Tulsa is Paul Smith, a 3-year starter. In week one, he had completed 71% of his passes, hit 8 different wide receivers, a very variable offense, Tom, and an offense that they put a lot of pressure on Paul Smith. Because of his leadership and his ability, he will make a lot of calls at the line of scrimmage.
Certainly a new year for the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. They welcome a new head coach, Todd Graham, his first home game. Gus Malzahn, the new offensive coordinator, in a brand new locker room in the end zone in the Case Athletic Complex, and it's the first home game in the Todd Graham era. Tulsa will take the field in a moment, and we'll have kickoff for you on CSTV next.
Good, Aaron. Cow.
Cow!
Yes, sweetie, cow.
Cow!
Paul, where are the burgers?
A free Chick-fil-A sandwich and Coke for the first million to register at freechickenandcoke.com.
Nobody serves college sports fans better than CSTV, the 24-hour college sports network from CBS Sports. To get CSTV, log on to CSTV.com.
Of fencing and 3 years of law school teach you a lot. For him, it's confidence. For me, it's pride. Go to NCAAstudent.org to find out how your child could become one of the many student athletes who go pro in something other than sports.
你好 ，BYU 有没有听过？
亚伯汉大学中文课程是全美国最大的之一。真好，真好。70%的 BYU 学生会讲2个语言。2个语言。对，学生能从66个语言课程选课高。Rah!
CSTV Football Nation is brought to you by BF Goodrich. BF Goodrich tires take control. And by Burger King, who reminds you to have it your way. And welcome to H.A. Chapman Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Cougars coming in at 1-1. Tulsa 1-0 after a game a couple of weeks ago over against Louisiana Monroe. First year, Todd Graham as the head coach here in Tulsa. Moments ago, he addressed his team before his first home game as the Tulsa head man.
We got to get around. We got to fly the football. Got to be explosive on our blitzes. Okay, special team. Set the tempo. We win the toss, we're going to defer. All right? You got an opportunity to go set the tempo. Let's get at it. Let's play 60 minutes. Let them feel Tulsa football today. Hold the rope. I ain't gonna let go. Don't let go. Let's get it done. Let's bring home the victory. Grab a hand.
A lot of motivation in that Tulsa locker room. They're holding ropes, they're carrying rocks, they're doing whatever they can to get this team fired up, and they will start on offense as BYU won the toss, but defer to the second half, which is almost a rarity in the college game today, to give the ball up with good field position.
Especially, Tom, with that new kicking rule, you're often seeing teams now not deferring, going ahead and taking the ball. So unusual, but the strength of BYU has been their defense. Bronco Mendenhall's done such a great job of that defense. Their scoring defense was 10th in the nation last year. They have a lot of experience on that defense.
Brian Smith has been added to the BYU roster. He's traveling today, and he puts a ball in the air, and it's immediately fumbled at the 10-yard line by Jamad Williams, and then he is swallowed up right about where he got the ball. So Tulsa takes the offense under the reins of Gus Malzahn. Longtime high school coach, was at Arkansas last year. Here's their line: Whitlow, Puckett, Whaley, Morrissey, and Thomas at right tackle. And they huddle on the side of the field before coming to the field with their backs and receivers. Some talented ones, but they are without Oklahoma transfer Courtney Tennille, who is lost for the season.
And a real important player for this offense is Charles Clay. He's a true freshman. You see it there, 8 receptions. They love to get him involved in the passing game out of the backfield.
Taking over that fullback H-back role, and the first pass they wanted to go to him, tipped at the line of scrimmage and ruled incomplete. So defensively for BYU, a good game last week against UCLA, just too many mistakes on both sides of the ball. And they've got some big fellas up front and throughout this BYU defense. Dulon, Manomaliuna, and the linebackers the strength of this team, including Brian Keel.
And Brian Keel, the most athletic player on this BYU defense. He'll be all over the field.
And so no huddle, quick screen pass, trying to set it up for Tulsa. That pass is complete, and it's a gain of about 5 that time. Cameron Clemens, a senior, getting involved in this game. And Brian Keel is a guy they want to avoid.
Yeah, Brian Keel is a guy, as I mentioned, the most athletic guy on this defense. And you know, it's kind of interesting how Bronco Mendenhall plays his defense. He has boundary players and field players, and the most athletic players are to the field. So whenever the ball's on the hash line, the most athletic players will be to the field. They feel like they can cover more ground. Obviously Tulsa wanting to run away from Brian Keel.
3rd and 5 now. Keel on the near side. Paul Smith, the senior from Owasso, fires it towards the sideline, but incomplete. And Tulsa will punt on its first possession. You mentioned this offense can be very effective, but Gus Malzahn told us we have to make first downs. The key is really just 1 first down per possession, because otherwise you're getting off the field too quickly. And look at that, 55 seconds before they're done.
And you put a lot of pressure on your defense. It's counterproductive if you can't get at least 1 first down. Now you're putting pressure on your defense.
Michael Such has it blocked at the line, and this one will take a friendly roll and get past midfield. And will be down by Tulsa at the 42-yard line. BYU got great pressure up front.
Tulsa uses that formation where they have 3 guys back, and BYU just coming out aggressive. You know, it's interesting, we're talking to some of the BYU coaches, and they were a little bit concerned. You know, they were concerned after playing Arizona, playing UCLA, then going on the road to a Conference USA team, making sure that this team was ready to play. Some aggressive calls early to make sure they're in the game.
Max Hall, the sophomore transfer from Arizona State, hadn't played a game in 4 years before the first one of the season against Arizona. 2 backs, Flankum, Unga, and Tonga. And he puts it in the air. First try, first down, BYU. Michael Reed with the grab.
Three wide receivers that you'll see from BYU is Michael Reed, Matt Allen, and Austin Collie. Three good wide receivers, good speed, outstanding hands. You see the lane, the throwing lane that time for Max Hall, and a beautiful throw in the middle of the field attacking this 3-3-5 defense of Tulsa.
Charles Davis on the coverage for the Golden Hurricane. It's called a 3-3-5 trap, but they're looking to disguise some looks as Unga gets his first carry and gets swallowed up. It'll be a loss of one as Alan Karatapian gets in the backfield.
Well, there's a very good example right there, Tom, is it's a 3-3-5, but they can fall into literally any kind of defense. And that time, Tulsa literally had 5 guys at the line of scrimmage. They can move that back 8, move those guys all around, very interchangeable. And so very difficult for BYU to figure out which guy is playing linebacker and which one is a safety.
Loss of one leaves 2nd and 11 for Max Hall in this BYU offense. A trio of great tight ends as well. They go back to Reed for the first down, and he is finally brought down by Steve Craver at his bandit position. Second catch of the day for Reed, as Hall seems to have found a favorite receiver early. Take a look at the starters for BYU as they go no huddle. Reynolds, Fenga, Aluvai, Brighton, Oswald, Alai on that line, and the backs and receivers a great tight end, and Soto, one of 3 that they'll see out there.
And I guess again the key is Unga, an outstanding running back, powerful, 265 all-purpose yards. They move him all over the field. BYU coaches want to get him involved early.
Redshirt freshman out of Provo's Tempview High School, and here he is with the carry, and he muscles his way to the 20-yard line. And offensively for Tulsa, they've had a shuffle up front. John Bell gets his first start at the end, along with Hopkins and Niemans, and some good linebackers here for Tulsa.
And the leader of that defense at linebacker, Nelson Coleman. He's got 278 career tackles, an outstanding player. Coaches talk about his leadership ability. Been a starter here from day one when he walked on this campus.
12 tackles in last year's matchup with BYU for Nelson Coleman, the senior out of Dallas's Skyline High School. 2nd and 6 for BYU. Max Hall is pressured, and down he goes as Karatapian gets to him.
Good pressure that time by Karatapian, and just comes on the blitz on the outside, and Unga's not in the game. The reason he's not is that Tonga's considered a better blocker. Number 11, Tonga steps up, but Karatapian just keeps coming, avoids that block, and a nice sack on Max Hall.
Tonga was suspended for the first game of the year against Arizona. Bounced back with 4 catches against UCLA, and you see BYU's numbers. They've converted 42% of their 3rd down attempts. 3rd and long. Hall goes to the flat. He's got Unga. He's got room to go. Look at that move. Dancing to the inside, and he shimmies his way all the way down to the 2.5-yard line.
Just good recognition that time by Max Hall. Doesn't panic. Once again, Tulsa comes with a little pressure off the outside. That 3-3-5. They walk that 4th guy up. Going to come with some pressure out there. Max Hall reads it, gets it outside to Unga. Again, we talked about the size and the strength of these running backs. Todd Graham talked about how his defense has to cut down these runners. They're not going to try to tackle them high. He really thought that UCLA last week did a good job of hitting these runners low and not allowing yards after initial contact.
First and goal from the 3-yard line, out of the eye this time, and this is Tonga, and Tonga to the goal line before he is bent backwards by some of the big fellas up front, including John Bell, who moves into his starting role today, the redshirt freshman from Shreveport, Louisiana.
See this big offensive line. They get the little pull that time. Pretty good block, but good job of getting off the block. Steve Craver that time, number 6. Initial contact. Very important. Can this defensive line of Tulsa, the 3 interior guys, can they hold up against this big physical BYU offensive line?
There's Bell, his first start today, most improved since spring ball, the Tulsa coaches told us. And now 2nd and goal. And again on the ground and upended at the goal line, but going in is Harvey Unga. Second touchdown run of the game for the redshirt freshman from Provo.
He's going to see right here It's a nice block by Tonga as he comes in, seals that outside, and when you're 6 foot, 225 pounds, that low to the ground. Just a nice physical run by Harvey Unga.
Freshman Brian Smith on to attempt the extra point. It is good. And BYU is out front 7-0. They score on the ground, but they move the ball through the air on that possession. 54 yards through the air. 2 catches by Michael Reed, 1 to Harvey Unga on a big 3rd down play.
Tom, you're just going to get a nice block out here. Right there's that block, that lead block just gets enough. And actually didn't get a great block that time. Unga just got in there before Tonga could even get there. Just the physicalness and the power of these BYU running backs.
They're looking to bounce back from that loss to UCLA, and the BYU coaching staff told us, you know what? It was pretty plain and frank. Their guys whooped our guys, and that's not something the Bronco Mendenhall's teams usually have happen to them because they are a physical bunch.
They're definitely a physical bunch. You know, that last week, and you think about their last 3 games under Bronco Mendenhall. They had the bowl game where they absolutely blew out Oregon, and as we've seen this year, that Oregon team's played awfully well. Then week 1, Mike Stoops' Arizona team had a lot of energy coming into the season, thought this might be a turnaround year. BYU dominated them. Then last week against UCLA, they dominated. I mean, they had twice as many total yards of offense. It was turnovers and stupid penalties. They had 5 fumbles, lost 2 of them, 11 penalties, and of course they had an interception returned for a touchdown. So this is a complete BYU team.
Walk-on kicker Brian Smith puts it in the air. This is Jamad Williams, has some room, and he is plowed at the 24-yard line, and Tulsa will get a second crack at offense. Gaze deeply into college football's future with the fortune tellers of CSTV's Crystal Ball. Join the Crystal Ball crew as they preview another big week in Football Nation, including Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Michigan, and much more. It's Crystal Ball Wednesday night at 7 Eastern, only on CSTV. Trev brought his crystal ball with him. What do you see this Tulsa offense doing, and how important to get a good possession here?
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, they must get a first down here. Their defense is just on the field that long. I think the first possession was 55 seconds. They have to get first downs.
And so Terrion Adams gets his first carry of the game. You know, coaches really ask for a lot and hope for a lot. And talking with Todd Graham, he said there's a few things we need to do on offense. We have to be physical, we have to run the ball, and we have to take some vertical shots downfield. That could be just about anybody's game plan.
Well, and he said, you know, I don't run this offense, but what I learned from Rich Rodriguez is that I'm going to set the parameters of this offense. And you're going to see a little option, misdirection. But I think the most important thing is they have to take shots deep against this BYU defense.
Trying to go out of the backfield. Adams bounces off Ben Criddle and gets a couple of yards out of this. So this Gus Malzahn offense is an offense he didn't get a chance to run last year for Houston Nutt over at Arkansas. This is a much better fit and a great quarterback to run this offense.
You know, it's kind of interesting when you talk about these 3-3-5 defenses. I mean, that's what Bronco Mendenhall was. He was a 3-3-5 guy, but when he went to BYU, figured out, you know, we need to run a 3-4. Quit playing man, play some zone, and play with the ball in front of our eyes. The difference of this defense you'll see tonight, they drop in zones and they make offenses execute down the field.
So that drive just over a minute for Tulsa as they now face in 4th and 8 and will look to kick it away. That time they tried to stretch the field, trying to go to Charles Clay. The play clock is running out on the Golden Hurricane, and this is going to add to BYU's field position. Officials, the play clock reads 0. They didn't see it. It sits at 0 right now as they wait for the snap. Michael Such, second punt. First one got tipped. Gets a decent one off, and this is Austin Collie with room to get started. And Collie spins out of one tackle and is dropped at the 38-yard line. BYU with the first score of this game. They had 7 touchdowns last year against the Golden Hurricane.
When it's people who do the right thing, they call it being responsible. When it's an insurance company, they call it Liberty Mutual. Responsibility. What's your policy? Liberty Mutual.
Oh, honey, it's Gorman.
Bottom of the ninth, Gorman down to his last strike. He had a pitch.
He's having problems at work again.
Runners will be going. Here's a pitch. Strike three. Game over.
Watch and control your home TV with Slingbox anywhere you can get an internet or cellular connection.
You should have traded that guy a long time ago. Fired. Fired.
Slingbox.
When their team lost hope,
Funeral's in today.
one man taught them
Let's push him to the limit, man.
where to find it.
This is who we are.
We play to the whistle blow.
Matthew McConaughey.
We are Marshall.
We Are Marshall. Buy it Tuesday on DVD and on demand.
Next Saturday in Football Nation, it's the battle for the Iron Skillet when TCU and their swarming defense host arch-rival SMU. It's all part of a full day of college football action on CSTV, starting at 1.
Tulsa's had to punt twice tonight. One of them got blocked, and they trail 7-0.
You know, it's kind of this new thing, punt formation. Look at these splits by these guys here. Take a look at this young man right here. This is Dan Van Sweden, okay? Now, this punt formation, we have 3 guys back. They basically let Dan Van Sweden go. The first one was blocked. I'm not sure I understand this whole formation. I mean, why would you allow a guy a free pass all the way back? If I'm the punter, I don't exactly like people coming in my face. You've already seen one block now. Tulsa has to do something about that formation.
They let him in the living room, but don't want him in the kitchen door, I suppose. Unga has 1 touchdown carry, and he drags a couple of guys after a gain of 6 and finally brought down. So Harvey Unga, one of those big BYU running backs, 6 feet, 221 pounds.
That's what I was waiting to hear from you tonight, Tom. You said he dragged a couple tacklers with him. That's the whole key to this offense. Good vision, a couple guys get on him, and they keep their legs going.
First miss tonight for Max Hall as he fires too strong. He was 4 for 4 on their first drive of this game to get BYU started.
Max Hall, good protection right there. Again, found the open receiver in the flat. Coaches often say if you're poised, if you're patient, you can find him, and then you just give it to your big running backs, Harvey Unga. Unga does a nice job of getting it into the end zone. And again, so much pressure on this Tulsa defense. They've been on the field the entire first quarter because their offense's 2 series were a minute or under.
Max Hall facing a 3rd and 4. They've already completed 1 third down attempt on that swing pass to Unga out of the backfield, and there's a flag before they can get the snap off.
You're going to get a false start on the right tackle.
False start, offense, number 68, 5-yard penalty, remains 3rd down.
Not only those backs big for BYU, but they can shuffle a couple of guys in, as you see David Oswald, the junior out of Sandy, Utah, jump.
Tom, he's 6'8", 325 pounds.
Big fella.
Talked about the physical nature of this BYU offense. And
Joe Seminoff and Harvey Unga flank Max Hall in that BYU backfield. How many will Tulsa bring? They bring a couple of extra guys. Max Hall steps away, fires on 1-on-1 coverage, and that pass is incomplete. Trying to squeeze it into Michael Reed, and great coverage that time from Charles Davis.
What a great job by Max Hall. Now, this is an incomplete pass, but the coaches talked about his competitive will and his understanding of the passing game. That time, Tulsa came with 3 extra blockers on the blitz, and Max Hall doesn't panic, steps up in the pocket, threw a pretty good ball that Michael Reed couldn't come up with.
Trey Johnson is one of the freshman receivers for Tulsa. He is set to return this one, standing at his 15. And BYU has the same type of punt formation. Their upbacks will step into the blocks. And this is a great kick from C.J. Santiago. And Trey Johnson takes it at his own 3. Trying to burst free, and he only makes it to the 14-yard line. That's where Tulsa will take over, can take some time off the clock by moving the chains for the first time tonight. Special teams play on 4th down and punting the ball away. They're at about a minute per average for their 3 and outs.
And I like the call here on 1st down. Pretty nice carry that time by Terry and Adams. See, now you're in 2nd and 5. And we're talking to Bronco Mendenhall, and he says, look, all they're doing is just shifting and motioning and trying to hurry up. They just want to create angles and confusion. Just relax, trust your reads, and play your normal defense.
Here comes Brian Keel. They bring a couple extra guys up the middle, including Jorgensen, and he gets to Paul Smith. dropping him just past the line of scrimmage. And two guys that the Tulsa coach is really worried about, Jan Jorgensen coming off the right end, and then Brian Keel, who plays that field side linebacker.
It was kind of funny, wasn't it? Every coach we went to, we went from office to office, and we talked about BYU's defense, and they kept singling out Brian Keel and Jan Jorgensen. Just a good job of not quitting on the play. Coming from that right side, beats the block, comes all the way across, and gets in on the play.
Smith had time, gets happy feet, and it's picked off. This is Ben Criddle, who stepped right in front of the pass intended for Adams, and there's a first turnover as Criddle, the senior from Glendale, Arizona, steals one. He's a walk-on at that boundary cornerback position.
Just a good job by Ben Criddle that time as Paul Smith sneaks out, just steps right in front of the receiver. You see Paul Smith sees some room to the outside, and it's just good job by Ben Criddle of reading the eyes. And again, we talked about playing with your eyes, that zone defense and breaking on the ball. As Coach Mendenhall told us, it was position mastery, and they went back to the fundamentals this week.
Unga with the carry, drop at the line of scrimmage. Nelson Coleman got in on the tackle for Tulsa.
Did you see how low Nelson Coleman was that time? I mean, it's not something you're going to ask your middle linebacker to do very often. You don't ask your middle linebacker to chop down the running backs. He went low and made a nice play.
BYU quickly back to the line, and Max Hall with a smart play, chucks it out of bounds with Karatapian in his face. Flag on the play.
We'll see what the flag is and what the call is, but you mentioned the smart play. You could see it from here. He wanted to throw it, didn't panic, was poised, knew it would be a difficult pass, held it, and threw it out into the out of bounds. There was an interception.
Too many penalties last week for BYU. And Bronco Mendenhall, his third season at the helm of the Cougars.
Pass interference, offense, number 9. 15-yard penalty, repeat, second down.
So Austin Collie, 3 years ago, the Mountain West Freshman of the Year, called for pass interference.
You mentioned that turnover margin. That's really been their Achilles heel this year. Now they've gotten the turnover so far in this game, but last year they were 4th in the nation in turnover margin. Right now they sit 95th, and it's obviously something that Bronco Mendenhall is trying to correct.
They had 485 yards of offense against UCLA and lost the game. 2nd and 24. Karatapian shows blitz. Here he comes. Pressure on. Hall hit as he throws, and that one lobbed up. And a smart play that time to knock it down. Dennis Pitta, the tight end, turned into a defensive back, and Hall saw the pressure.
And Tulsa just is going to bring more than you can block. Anthony Germany's just going to come to the outside and drill Max Hall that time. You'll see it in real speed here. Nelson Coleman comes up the middle just to the outside. A nice hit by Anthony German. Max Hall just doesn't sense the pressure, has to get rid of it, and doesn't get enough on the ball.
Chris Chamberlain, the senior from Bethany, Oklahoma, a little banged up, had 6 tackles in that game against Louisiana Monroe. Missed the first game last year recovering from knee surgery, and he gingerly exits the field here with BYU facing a 3rd and 24. You can be the head of programming for your own college sports network. CSTV gives you the power to get live games, the latest news, up-to-the-minute scores, and more on your TV, computer, and your mobile phone. Go to cstv.com/mychannel. Four wide for BYU. Tonga on the draw. Pardon me, Vakapuna on the draw, and he gets hit. And after a nice gain, it will still lead 4th and long as Fui Vakapuna gets his first carry of the night.
See, that's what Todd Graham and this defense will do because of the 3-3-5. Last time they bring 5 or 6. This time they just have the 3 defensive linemen. Don't get the linebackers up. Again, down in distance dictates what this defense will do. 3rd and long, just play the odds, and BYU is stopped. A good stand by this Tulsa defense.
It'll use Tanner Antley with the tackle that time for Tulsa. And here is Brian Smith. The freshman walk-on. Did he get it? No. Short by a few yards. And his first ever field goal attempt. Mitch Payne has been the BYU place kicker, but it's been Brian Smith who has handled the kickoffs, and that lone field goal opportunity already has one PAT tonight. And some encouraging words on the sideline for the BYU freshman.
So important for that Tulsa defense. You had the change of possession, a big momentum swing when BYU gets the interception, and Tulsa's defense had to stiffen, did a nice job and get out of it without even a field goal.
2.5 minutes of offense for Tulsa, trying to, 3:45 of offense after that third possession. Ball Smith checks at the line. To the air. Catch made and a nice size gain for Deon Tolliver. One of the few returning wide receivers for this Tulsa team. But they got guys like A.J. Whitmore, Trey Johnson, Chris Ford, a lot of youngsters in that receiving core. I tell you what, if you're a wide receiver, this would be, I don't want to recruit for him, but this would be a fun offense to come play in, wouldn't it?
That sure would. I mean, they run the ball, but they pass to set up the run.
Personal foul, face mask, defense, number 25. 15-yard penalty at the end of the run.
That is something Bronco Mendenhall does not want to see. Quinn Gooch with the 15-yard penalty for a personal foul face mask. And another mistake for BYU puts Tulsa across midfield for the first time tonight. They were undone by a couple of untimely personal fouls, pass interference penalties last week in the Rose Bowl against the Bruins. They fake the reverse, keep it on the ground, and Jamad Williams, the freshman, picks up 4.
Pretty good job that time by BYU's defense of staying at home, and that's a difficulty that you have with this Tulsa offense. They will show you a lot of different looks. They show you the end around, they fake the reverse back to the other side, and BYU just stays at home, waits for him to come to him, makes a nice play on first down.
They faked the reverse to the quarterback Paul Smith, who was lined out wide. A.J. Whitmore took that snap that time. Smith has time. Uncorks deep down the sideline. Catch made. Tulsa touchdown. Charles Clay, the freshman, with his first score as a Hurricane.
They got the matchup that they wanted that time, as Todd Graham talked to us about, taking some shots vertically down the field, had a man-to-man matchup on the outside with David Nixon, the outside linebacker. Just see it develop right here. You get the wheel route, it's right here. It's man-to-man with your outside linebacker. Does a pretty good job initially. It just loses the wide receiver. Too much speed on the outside by Charles Clay.
Paul Gerardo pushes it through, and for the first time as a Hurricane player, Charles Clay finds the end zone. Tulsa's tied it up.
You have too much kick. Learn to control it. Again. Still too much kick. Little kick. You are ready.
The new spicy chicken crisp. Just the right amount of kick. Just $1 on the BK value menu.
Conference USA, home to talented student athletes from 12 great universities. Every year, the competition within CUSA gets tougher and the rivalries get more intense.
Is this looking like a rivalry game now?
It's good! Passes on the money!
This is our house, Conference USA. Rivalries live here.
Charles Clay gave a verbal commitment to Miami. He was also recruited by Arkansas, and on the eve of signing day, he called up Todd Graham. He said, "Coach, you have room for me?" "Yeah, I think we can find a spot for you, Charles."
He never even visited here.
No, never took a visit. He's a freshman from Little Rock Central High School, and well, Todd Graham must have felt like it was Christmas morning on National Signing Day when Charles Clay said, "I'm coming to Tulsa." You know, he's no Garrett Mills, but he runs a similar position. Garrett Mills, now in the NFL, was a tight end, H-back, lined up in the backfield, split him out wide, and it takes a special player to be able to do so many different things and give you mismatches.
Well, and Tulsa coaches told us, I mean, they were frankly surprised. They didn't know he was that good of a receiver out of the backfield.
Here's Austin Collie from his 16-yard line. It opens up for him. He's got the sideline now, and finally pushed out of bounds by the kicker, Jared Tracy. So here we are in Tulsa with Trev Alberts. I'm Tom Hart. And so far, this Tulsa offense has spent too much time getting off the field before that score to clutch.
Well, it'll make you pull your hair out. I mean, you're Todd Graham, you're a defensive player, you're fighting like heck, and this offense is 3 and out, 3 and out. Well, this is why they have this offense, Tom. It has the ability to find that mismatch, just like they did that time. David Nixon, man-to-man, you know, with Charles Clay on the wheel route. That's a matchup you can win. So be patient with it and get the big play, 43 yards for the touchdown.
And part of a 73-yard drive for Tulsa, and they needed a first down in the worst of ways. So here's Max Hall back at the helm for BYU. And this is Fui Vakapuna battling an ankle injury and offseason surgery, and he takes it for a gain of 7 on his second carry. Had missed 23 yards against UCLA, but boy, did he carry the load last year against Tulsa. Made 8 guys miss on 1 carry.
See, that's pretty good vision right there. Sees it's pretty sealed to the outside, cuts it back up in there. Coach has said he's just not all the way back, as you mentioned, Tom, from that injury. But when he's all the way back and healthy, he's probably their most complete back.
So 2nd and 4 for the Cougars. Hall swings it out again, and they get a first down, that time to Manasseh Tonga, the junior from San Mateo, California. 4 catches against UCLA for Tonga. And we talked a lot about these guys in the backfield. They're big, they're quick, they've got quick feet. They also use them a lot as wide receivers coming out of the backfield.
They move them around, and Max Hall does a nice job of finding them. And talk about this no-huddle offense. Here's BYU standing here playing Tulsa-style football on offense, putting a lot of pressure on this Tulsa defense.
18 catches for this backfield for the first 2 games for BYU. You know, a couple tonight, one each for Unga and Tonga. Hall looking deep. Checks off, goes underneath, and that ball incomplete. Looking for Matt Allen. The senior hasn't made a catch yet tonight.
Pretty good coverage that time by Tulsa's defense, and Max Hall wanted to go down the seam, but Allen Karatapian and Anthony Jeremy did a pretty nice job of doubling right down the seam. It's kind of interesting. Tulsa's defense, we've seen a lot of different looks, and the coaches talked about the benefits of this defense, that back 8 doing so many different things. They're trying to show Max Hall a lot of different looks. Binging pressure, that time they just rushed 3.
On the ground again, Unga, and a flag on the play as he picked up 4.5. Coming back again. So, you know, here's, we mentioned it before, but it bears repeating. 3 turnovers, 11 penalties for minus 84 yards for BYU against UCLA.
Well, and that's really all that Bronco Mendenhall could talk about. You know,
block, offense, number 11, 15-yard penalty, repeat, 2nd down.
It is so important for any coach, but I think for Bronco Mendenhall, even to a higher level, just so important to him, the clean play, the position mastery. Look at the left side of your screen down here. You can see it right here. The big fella's up front doing some holding, and I'm interested, Tom, why BYU is running to the outside. I would think that the strength of Tulsa's defense, because of their interchangeability, is to be able to stretch things from sideline to sideline. And now we get another penalty on BYU.
Going the wrong way are the Cougars.
offense, number 45. 5-yard penalty, remains second down.
Illegal substitution. BYU in 2 games has given up 111 yards in penalties. And that is their 5th flag of tonight with 3 minutes to go and counting here in the first quarter. And so 2nd and 28. Hall steps up, goes underneath off the hands of Manasseh Tonga.
You see, there's just another example of this BYU offense. Pretty good read that time. Max Hall steps up into the pressure, dumps it off, but you've been beating it over the head, Tom. But again, it bears repeating. Look at inside the numbers and trying to beat a UCLA team last week. Look at the total yards, 435 to 236. That's domination up front on both sides of the ball. It was the penalties and turnovers.
The worst news for BYU fans is their rivals at the University of Utah hammered UCLA 44-6. It's a big win for the Mountain West, but if you're in Provo or anywhere in the state as a BYU fan, you don't like that one at all. Hall steps up, gets late block, loses his footing, and that's another incomplete pass as he got tripped by the turf.
Well, it certainly wouldn't have been a first down either, but that's 2 consecutive plays. What do we have? 2 or 3 penalties in a row, then 2 drop passes in a row after that very impressive first drive. This BYU offense sort of sleepwalking here as we get late in the first quarter.
Tulsa will force BYU to punt. And they want illegal substitution again. The Tulsa sideline screaming. I don't know if they, Trev, I didn't see that they were in a huddle, so they didn't break the huddle with 12 guys, but Tulsa has it lined up to come after. Good looking punt. And now the freshman asks for a fair catch, and Trey Johnson takes it at his 17-yard line. Tulsa's defense hasn't had to work very hard. Not on that possession. BYU gave them all the yardage they wanted.
No, they certainly have, and that's the kind of, you know, if you play a defense, when you have an offense that's a quick strike offense that can do that for you. I mean, you're sitting there on the sideline watching your offense, and boom, it's 43 yards and a touchdown. It's fun to play defense when you have an offense like that. And we've talked a lot about Coach Malzahn and what he's done in high school. He was outstanding. He was a legend in high school. I mean, he had videos and books out, and that's really how Todd Graham met him. He was so intrigued by this no huddle spread offense that he bought the video.
End around this time as Tulsa wants to keep it on the ground, and a good strong tackle made by David Nixon, who got beat on that touchdown. Todd Graham didn't have to look far. Gus Malzahn was in Northwest Arkansas, just over an hour away from here, at Shiloh Christian and then Springdale High School before moving on to Houston Nutt Stafford. But just one very, very tough and tumultuous season.
Well, and I asked Coach Graham, well, how did you take Gus Malzahn as your offensive coordinator? He said, well, they do everything that I hated to try to defend.
Paul Smith has a man wide open in the air, and this one will be another big game for Tulsa. Brennan Marion had to wait for that one to come down. If he hadn't, he'd have 6 to his name right now.
See, that's just the point about this BYU defense. They play zone, but as Coach Graham told us, it doesn't matter what defense you're playing. If you vertically challenge people down the field, what do you get, Tom? You end up having man-to-man coverage. That time, Quinn Gooch is man-to-man with Brendan Marion.
Well, Quinn Gooch is known to blame but himself. He checks the coverages by formation. He's the quarterback of that defense and responsible for adjustments. It was Marion who had to adjust to that rainbow pass. On the ground, Terrion Adams, in the heart of the Tulsa defense, bangs his way for a couple. We'll leave 2nd and 8 now.
That play, Tom, was really set up by the motion in the backfield. The reason why Quinn Gooch got sucked up is you look at it right here. You're going to see the motion back there, and you're the safety. You get the roll out to the outside. Right here, you're challenged in the middle of the field, but gets behind Quinn Gooch right there is Brendan Marion. And a pretty good throw by Paul Smith, a little underthrown. It would have been a touchdown.
Paul Smith, the record-setting quarterback, fires a bullet that goes off the hands of his intended receiver, Deon Tolliver. Now Paul Smith an award candidate for the Manning and Davey O'Brien Award, second team all-conference last year, 19 career 200-yard games, and he was on pace for that with a .110 already. Here tonight with the first quarter still going. Pressure on, lets it go over the middle and off the fingertips. A near interception that time for Quinn Gooch. Already one pick for BYU belongs to Ben Criddle.
And that wasn't a good throw. That time, Paul Smith, a veteran, a 3-year starter, throws it off the back foot, just couldn't get enough on the ball, and Quinn Gooch does a pretty good job of reading it that time. Should have had an interception.
4th and 8, and they show that they're going to go for it here. Late substitution. They walk a guy off with the no huddle. Smith checks with Malzahn, who's 3 yards onto the field on the near sideline. Play clock at 6.
Gonna get the pooch punt here, Tony.
And he fakes the pooch punt, goes for the first down marker, and Tulsa moves the chain. That is kind of the innovative offense you expect from Gus Malzahn as Cameron Clemens has the grab.
What a great call that time. You drop Paul Smith back. Remember Dan Marino a few years back? Spike it, playing the Jets. Acts like he's going to spike it, throws a touchdown. Look at Paul Smith back here. They're in the punt formation. Acts like he's going to punt, whips it out to the left, and a beautiful throw that time and a first down for Tulsa.
Clemens went to the exact spot he needed. Smith roll in the pocket, has plenty of time, gets a block, will scramble. You know, Paul Smith is a guy who can run a little bit. They don't ask him to, but he kind of needs to when it comes to balancing this offense. Wasn't necessary against Louisiana Monroe, but if they're going to be successful over the long haul, he'll need to use his legs a little bit.
Well, yeah, and Todd Graham talked about that. He said, look, I mean, I want to be a throwing offense, but at the same time, I don't want to get to the point where we never run. I mean, you know, part of running the ball is being physical. I mean, you can have a physical offense and throw. You know, Gus Malzahn, he just wants to throw every play. I mean, challenge him down the field every play.
Adams in play in the backfield next to Smith. Play action to the end zone. Touchdown. A Tulsa touchdown. Criddle wanted a push off. Instead, it's another score for the Golden Hurricane. Trey Johnson with his second touchdown in as many games for Tulsa, and the freshman's on the board.
We often talk about pocket awareness, and I think it's a term that's overused, but look at Paul Smith here. His internal clock says somebody could be coming back, so he escapes out of the pocket on the run, throws a bullet out there to Trey Johnson, who does a nice job of getting off. Again, that's zone coverage back there, but because of how they're flooding the zones, in effect, it's man-to-man coverage from Ben Criddle.
Trey Johnson has caught 3 career passes in Tulsa. 2 of them have gone for scores.
See, they're just back in a zone defense, but you flood all of those zones, you end up right there, essentially with man-to-man. There's Paul, feels a little bit of pressure. Internal clock says get out of there on the run. That's a tough throw to make, Tom. Now Tulsa has answered in a big way. I mean, after those first 2 drives that they looked inept, couldn't move the ball at all. BYU takes it, runs right down the field and scores. Then there's the turnover. Paul Smith turns the interception. Defense stiffens, does a very good job, and then the offense answers with a couple nice drives.
So Tulsa with its first lead tonight under the lights here at Skelly Field. Get one-to-one access to the best football in the West with CSTV.com's Going West, presented by ConocoPhillips. Follow our 2 intrepid road trippers as they roam the Wild West, talking game plan with the coaches, training with players, eating team dinners, tailgating with the fans, and of course, taking in the games, including BYU, Utah, USC, UCLA, and many more. Connor McKnight and Connor and Caitlin on the road for CSTV. First quarter expected a shootout, so 14-7 early on, the expected numbers. Jared Tracy will put it away. BYU, low numbers in turnovers, terrible return yards through 2 games. Bryce Mawika and Austin Colley got extra practice this week, and they pooch it, and one of the up men will take it and grind out a couple of yards to the 30-yard line on the return. as the tight end Dennis Pitta hauled that one in. The BYU return game was so bad that both Moika and Colley stayed 30 minutes after practice Monday fielding balls from the jugs machine. Their return team ranks 100th in the nation.
Again, those are the little things that Bronco Mendenhall teaches, and the little things that he can't stand, the penalties, and it's really affected this game so far. And you know, the interesting thing Todd Graham talked about was not stopping the run. He didn't think he'd be able to stop BYU's run, but control it. BYU's 5-1 in the last 6 games when they rushed for 100 yards. And of course, last week they had net 44 yards against UCLA and lost the game.
Hall. Oh, what a hit! Credit Manasseh Tonga for bouncing back to his feet, but Charles Davis seemingly knocked into Sunday with that pop.
Now Max Hall really shouldn't have thrown this ball to Tonga. Oh, goodness.
Davis stands 5'9", 170. Tonga 6 feet 234. Hall on 2nd and 10. Incomplete. Near pick for Tulsa that time. In the backfield was Roy Roberts.
What do they always tell you? If you're a running back or wide receiver, if they're playing zone, find the hole, sit down, and look for the ball. That time Tonga ran through the zone, and Charles Davis is sitting there reading the quarterback and delivers a shot. But you got to like the toughness of Tonga. Bounced up, said that was nothing. I want to see BYU, obviously not in this play, 3rd and 10, but I want to see this offense in a regular formation, in an I formation, pounding the ball between the tackles.
3rd and 10. Hall. Catch made, and that is enough for a first down. Michael Reed with another grab, his 3rd of the night for BYU.
And you always ask coaches in these meetings, you know, what did you learn about your team? And Coach Anai, the offensive coordinator, said, man, this Max Hall kid, he got drilled against UCLA. I mean, they sacked him 4 times. They hit him. It never bothered him. He didn't get happy feet. And that time sits in there, things not going well, delivers a strike to Michael Reed.
Will he get off one more snap before the quarter comes to an end? No. And so BYU dominating early. That Tulsa defense sprints into position. They're anxious for the 2nd quarter to get underway. And an enthusiastic crowd happy to have the Golden Hurricane home in the first home game of 07.
Academics and in life. Whether you're an athlete, a student, or one of the best fans in the country, you can reach your peak in the Mountain West Conference.
The end of the first quarter was quite a bit different than the beginning of this game. And the big reason is BYU has gone dry offensively.
Well, not only gone dry, but it's this right here. They went backwards, and then the same things that hurt them last week hurt them again. It was the penalties, drop passes, small little things that really have been hurting this offense.
5 penalties for 53 yards. Max Hall steps up. There's a first down again, going to Michael Reed. And this offense run by Robert Anai in his 3rd year here. He's a BYU player who was on the national championship team in 1984. This isn't his first trip to Tulsa. In fact, he came out of Hawaii on his LDS mission, and he was assigned Tulsa, Oklahoma. He showed up in the wintertime with no coat. He said, bless those folks in Tulsa, because they saw this big Hawaiian guy trying to ride his bike on the icy roads of Tulsa, and they were nothing but the kindest people I've ever dealt with. I think he found a coat out of the deal, which is a big help. But when you're from Hawaii, Tulsa does feel like a really cold place in January and February.
Well, I don't think he knew a whole lot about Tulsa or anywhere else where he was going to go, as we see another physical run by Harvey Unga.
I think both you and Robert and I would love to see more physical play from BYU when it comes to that ground game.
I think playing this Tulsa team, this 3-3-5, again, it's a versatile, interchangeable defense where they can get 8 and 9 guys in the box. But that big offensive line, you challenge the offensive line, you challenge these running backs, and you establish something on the ground.
Max Hall, a quarterback for BYU, the nephew of Danny White. Danny White, the former Sun Devil at Arizona State. That's where Max Hall got his career started before transferring to Provo. And Hall lets it go deep. Looking down the sideline, and what a grab made by BYU. He took it away from him. Austin Collie just plain stole that ball from Roy Roberts.
A terrific play on the outside to get the man coverage they want as Max Hall goes back, unleashes the pass, and what a terrific athletic play by Austin Collie to go up and take the ball away from Roberts.
Austin Collie with some strong family ties to this program. His dad Scott was a wide receiver in the early 80s. Caught passes from a guy by the name of Jim McMahon. Now we're tied at 14, just a couple of plays into this second quarter. Here's Austin Collie doing his thing. 2 scores against UCLA.
We talk about ball skills. It's down there, and Max Hall gets a little pressure from the backside. And look at it right there. Just the ball skills, body control to jump over the defender. As you take another look, it's a nice throw. It's terrific coverage that time. But Austin Collie just does a great job of catching the ball at its highest point and bringing it back down. Man, the momentum switches and differences in this game have been remarkable. I mean, the first drive, BYU is dominant. Tulsa can do nothing. Suddenly Tulsa's been outstanding and BYU can't do anything on offense. And now again, one big play from Max Hall, and it's tied 14-all.
You know, that old school 16-team WAC conference was known for late night shootouts, and these former conference mates seem to have another one at their hands tonight, tied at 14 here early in the second quarter.
You know, Bronco Mendenhall talked about why he chooses to play the kind of defense he does, play zone defense. He said, look, Tulsa's going to have a lot of yards. It's scoring defense. He thinks that, you know, many college offenses just get impatient, and he really thinks that this Tulsa offense can get impatient. Well, they're not going to get impatient if they have 43-yard scoring strikes.
Trey Johnson lets the kick bounce in front of him and then falls on it. Pardon me, not Trey Johnson, but Jamad Williams, another freshman. Here's Tulsa's offense. Paul Smith just 2 of 6 to start in the first 3 drives. On fire since. He's hit on 5 of his last 7 passes.
The wheel route there, got the touchdown, did have the interception, and Quinn Gooch that time jumped up, but that was a beautiful throw. Faked a little pooch kick, had a beautiful first down, and then another touchdown there. A little up and down, had the interception, but it's been pretty accurate so far.
Looking for another 200-yard game is Paul Smith at 136 right now with 2 touchdown scores. And they fake the end around. Smith steps up, fires deep between the hash marks. He's got a man, and he's got a first down. Bobbled but score. What a grab and great hands for Brennan Marion. And he won the sprint right down the middle of the field.
We've talked about the action and all of the motion that Gus Malzahn does. There's a reason for it. Once again, you show that end around reverse action. It freezes the safety just enough. It's that right there, just enough. Little play action, just enough that Quinn Gooch comes up, and all of a sudden Brendan Marion is behind him a step, and a beautiful throw and another touchdown for Tulsa.
Brennan Marion with 2 catches, 124 yards tonight. That one goes for 75 yards, and it shoots the Golden Hurricane back out in front as Brennan Marion. That's fine, you're open, but you got to catch it and you've got to secure it after you get open.
That's right. I mean, all wide receivers think they're open every play, but it is true. BYU has very good wide receivers, good route runners, and I think underrated athleticism.
5 catches for 68 yards tonight for Michael Reed. Hall in the air, and this time finds his tight end, and off and running is Dennis Pitta, and Pitta takes it all the way down to the 25-yard line. Pitta at 5 grabs against UCLA. They've got some great tight ends.
3 great tight ends, and Max Hall does a pretty good job of knowing where to go with the football. The one thing he does pretty well is that pre-snap recognition. sort of waits till Tulsa shows their hand a little bit about maybe where the pressure is going to come from, knows his tight end's going to be in a good position, and another nice throw from Max Hall.
Pressure on. That one hit his lineman, and another flag on the play. They're trying to set up the screen, and Ray Fenga had that one go off of his calf. Or is Germany going to get whistled for roughing the passer?
I'm not exactly sure what the call is going to be, but I think it's going to be Anthony Germany. And Todd Graham has brought
personal foul, roughing the passer, defense, number 3, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Todd Graham has brought fairly consistent pressure on Max Hall, and he's mixed it up nicely. He's rushed 3, he's brought 4, he's brought 5, but probably the best blitz that they've had has been consistently Anthony Germany coming off that edge. And that's what's kind of nice about this 3-3-5. You got a number 3, he's back, he's a safety, he's in coverage. At the last second, he comes off the corner, and Max Hall has not picked up Anthony Germany on a consistent basis.
That's the first flag of the night going against the Golden Hurricane. These are BYU fans.
So there he is right there. There's Germany.
And here he comes down the line. Inga trying to stretch it out. Gets past one guy and finally brought down from behind by Wilson Garrison, who's in at that end spot for John Bell, who left via injury.
I'd have to tell you, I think probably the most interesting thing to me about watching this first half so far is I really expected BYU to have a lot of success running the ball on this Tulsa defense. Remember, in their first game, they allowed 150 yards rushing to Calvin Dawson of Louisiana Monroe. And so you'd think that BYU and their big offensive line would tank it right at this defense, but so far they've done a good job of stringing it out and waiting till their help gets there.
Watch out for those Warhawks. Hall towards the end zone, got Pitta and got a score. Dennis Pitta's second catch on this drive. They rotate 3 guys in. The tight end always lines up on the right side.
Good recognition again that time by Max Hall, just being patient and waiting. Randy Duncan at free safety is there, but Pitta does a good job of getting behind him, and Max Hall with another strike. Here we go again.
179 yards through the air for Max Hall. Both quarterbacks. Well, Paul Smith has already passed the 200-yard mark. We've got a flag on the extra point.
Charles Davis came from the outside to force the kick and ended up getting contact with the kicker.
No, roughing the kicker will be assessed on the kickoff.
And I don't know if it's fair to say that Charles Davis roughed him. I mean, the kicker here's huge.
Big fella. Max Hall, also a big guy, and he's been slinging it all over the place. We're tied again.
Nissan Titan is a Strategic Vision Total Quality Award leader. It's also the only truck tough enough to deliver college football's most coveted award, the Heisman, brought to you by the Nissan Titan.
Now get big arms, a ripped chest, and cut abs with the Perfect Push-Up. The Perfect Push-Up works with the natural rotation of your arms and shoulders to maximize results and minimize stress on your body. With the Perfect Push-Up, your hands, arms, and shoulders rotate 90 degrees, just like in a punch. All the energy of the push-up is captured and transmitted right where you want it, to the muscles. There's no wasted effort, just muscle-building movement. And as your arms rotate, you feel it work in your biceps, your triceps, your chest and abs, and your shoulders. Invented by a U.S. Navy SEAL and made with steel and a ball-bearing movement, it's the push-up perfected. So here's the deal. The Perfect Push-Up is only 2 payments of $19.95. When you order, you'll receive 2 Perfect Push-Up rotational handles, and you'll also receive the Navy SEAL-inspired Perfect Push-Up workout chart. You'll be ripped in no time. Get big fast. Call right now for the Perfect Push-Up.
Call 1-800-640-6823.
The shootout continues, locked at 21, 11:30 to go in the second quarter. Max Hall's wife, Mackenzie, watching this game back home on campus. Couldn't afford to make the trip, so she's having all the BYU wives over tonight to watch their guys in action. And boy, this is not a game to watch if you like defense, huh? This is an offensive explosion.
But it's fun to watch.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I got to tell you, as a defensive player, Tom.
As a former defensive player, Trev.
What are you trying to say?
I think you lost a step. Is that fair to say?
2 or 3.
Chance for a Tulsa return. And after the penalty, they'll have good field position. Paul Smith knows what it's like to have a good tight end, and Garrett Mills, the former Golden Hurricane, but BYU's got a slew of them.
Dennis Pitta just does a nice job of sneaking out into the flat, and sort of the same thing happened last week playing against UCLA. They couldn't get separation on the outside with their wide receivers, so they changed a little bit, went back to their bread and butter. BYU's always had great tight ends, and it's a difficult matchup. It's a tight end, it's a safety, it's a big body who's athletic, and that time Dennis Pitta, 2 nice catches from Max Hall.
You know, Robert and I came to BYU from Texas Tech, where they run a similar offense. Obviously, they spread it out under Mike Leach. And now Smith going deep again. Trey Johnson. Oh, what a grab by the freshman. They wanted to get vertical. They're going skyscraper vertical today.
Now, these BYU defenders simply cannot match the athleticism of these Tulsa wide receivers. You mentioned Trey Johnson, 5'11", 170 pounds, just going to be lined up on the outside, and BYU just sitting there in zone, but they give Paul Smith enough time. It ends up man-to-man back there on the outside, and Cale Buchanan gets beat again. Another catch by Trey Johnson.
That's their 3rd big play of the day. That one goes for 51 yards.
The chain gang can't keep up.
Yeah, they're running sprints down there. Terry and Adams. 2 yards. How boring is that? Let's put it back in the air, fellas. By the way, this is just in case your clock's running. This is going to be a long night here because both teams are putting points on the board, and Trev, they're showing no signs of slowing down.
Well, there's going to be adjustments made already. I mean, obviously, you've seen with BYU offensively, the adjustment they made was going back to the tight end. Defensively, BYU has just not answered. They don't have an answer for the athleticism and speed on the outside of these Tulsa receivers.
Smith overthrew Trey Johnson, got hit as he threw. I mean, he got popped. Kelly Papinga was the one who laid the hit on him.
And maybe that's what the answer is. They're saying, look, I mean, we're going to sit there in zone. We're going to bring some pressure off the corner. That time, Brian Keel and Kelly Papinga come off the edge. You see Brian Keel's going to come here. Papinga comes here. They can't block them all. Papinga gets enough of a hit and makes Paul Smith get rid of the ball.
Can't ever cause anyone to forget about Cameron Jensen, but Kelly Papinga doing his best job at that middle linebacker spot to fill in for one of the BYU greats. 3rd down. Towards the end zone, Charles Clay, another score. Rack it up. Clay's got his 2nd.
And it's just the speed. It's Chris Bolden, an outside linebacker, ends up the wheel route, ends up man-to-man. Again, there's Charles Clay, their move guy. They put him in motion. He's going to be on the outside. He comes in motion, gets that wheel route man-to-man now with Chris Bolden, and it's an easy pitch and catch for Paul Smith.
Wow, what a day for Paul Smith. Coming into this one, he had completed 71% of his passes against Louisiana Monroe. Tonight he's 10 for 17, 280 yards. They fire off pyrotechnics after every Tulsa score. They're going to run out of fireworks tonight.
So much of what Gus Malzahn does offensively in terms of the shifting and motion, all the different variables that he gets you, is he's trying to get his guys in position to win individual battles. And again, an individual battle with a guy like Charles Clay with the speed and athleticism on the outside, matched up with an outside linebacker from BYU. That's 2 times tonight. And it's the same position. Both Chris Bolden and David Nixon have been beaten on a wheel route by Charles Clay.
61 yards receiving tonight for Clay. True freshman out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Paul Smith has gone big, 4 plays over 40 yards tonight. One thing you're going to guarantee from Bronco Mendenhall, his team, or at least he and his style, they're never going to get 2 up or 2 down. Very businesslike. Very controlled, even though his insides might be churning right now. He was a safety and linebacker at Oregon State. He might want to strap it on and get out there. Here's Colley. Colley's got room. Trying to stretch it to the outside. Here goes Austin Colley. Past midfield to the 40. And again, the kicker having to make a play for Tulsa. Now, usually the kicker only has to pick up the tee. They're asking a lot more of him tonight on these Austin Colley returns.
A great lane right here, and see Austin Colley as he sees that. Good blocking up front, and there's an awful lot of speed from Austin Colley. Good job. Now good field position again. Get ready for another touchdown.
Colley needs to catch his breath in the BYU sideline. 5 minutes into the second quarter. BYU threatening again. Trailing by 7. Hall over the middle. Catch made by Pitta. And another first down. Another grab by the tight end. So 28-21 Tulsa. Our Aflac trivia question tonight. Who was the winner of the first ever Davy O'Brien National Quarterback Award?
There's been a lot of great quarterbacks at BYU.
Sure have.
Robbie Bosco, Ty Detmer.
Max Hall would love to follow in those footsteps. And the one big difference is Max Hall served a mission. A lot of those great quarterbacks never served a mission. They never missed 2 years of football. The answer, a guy who didn't serve an LDS mission during his time at BYU, Jim McMahon, won the 1981 Davy O'Brien Award. 30 touchdown passes, led the nation in pass efficiency and total offense, and finished behind Marcus Allen and Herschel Walker in the Heisman race. 71 NCAA records by the time Jim McMahon's clock could run out at BYU.
Tom, I want you to focus right there. That's Nelson Coleman. Tulsa's moving their linebackers into gaps, and you see what BYU has done as you get pressure from the outside. The reason why BYU has went back to trying to find the tight end is because Tulsa's linebackers, because of their movement and their pre-snap reads, are in those A and B gaps, and it's not allowing them to get back into coverage fast enough. Tulsa's taking Nelson Coleman, Alan Karatapian, putting them up around the line of scrimmage. They're dropping off, and Anthony Germany's coming off the corner. You see these guys? There he is, right there. That's Nelson Coleman. He'll move around the line of scrimmage, trying to create confusion. And so that's why you take your tight end or your flex guy and get him out in the middle of the field.
Coleman drops now into coverage. Hall steps up. He's going to run with it, and he's got a lot of room for a first down to the 5-yard line. And at the bottom of that pile, Chris Chamberlain on the tackle for Tulsa.
You see, I really love, as a former defensive player, I love moving around. I mean, see, these linebacker, there's Nelson Coleman there, making dummy calls, moving all around. There's Alan Karatapian there. He comes off the corner. Nelson drops back into coverage. That's what this offense allows you to do. And if you're Max Hall, you have to be poised and be patient and realize with all that movement's good, but there will be holes when guys get out of position.
Hall keeps it right up the middle. That last scamper was the longest of his college career, a 10-yard sprint right up the gut.
Now, BYU doesn't score quite as quickly as Tulsa, but effective nonetheless. A little more typical in terms of offensive production. They mix it up a little bit, trying to get people involved. Not as many big plays. I mean, Tulsa, it's been ridiculous. It's been play after play. Wide receivers getting behind these BYU secondary.
Hall on the fade route looking for Colley. Incomplete. Roy Roberts was all over.
So you get down here deep inside the red zone, and in that spread offense, and you have Austin Colley, he's spread way out. There's those individual man-to-man matchups on the outside that you have to win. Right here. That's a matchup you can win. There's Dennis Pitta at tight end. 230 pounds matched up against a small defensive back. That's your free safety out there in Roy Roberts.
Pitta's got 6 inches on Roberts, and now he goes in motion. Quick strike, incomplete, flag on the play. It'll be a first down. Karatapian trying to match up with Vic Soto. You know, it was odd. You're talking with the Tulsa coaches. They mentioned 99% of the time BYU's going to line up its tight end on the right side. For a team that uses several different positions defensively with the boundary side and the field side, they always keep that tight end in those angles on the right
defense,
side.
Number 7. The ball will be placed at the 2-yard line. First down.
Randy Duncan gets flagged.
As you mentioned, that tight end on the right side, but really it doesn't matter where you line the tight end up at, because you also have Dennis Pitta, who's lined up sort of in that slot receiver position. He's your move guy, so you can accomplish formation wise what you want by movement, and that's what BYU gets.
Half the distance leaves us first and goal from the 2.
And now they're in a 2 tight end situation, right and left, with a move guy Pitta.
So 3 tight ends in there for BYU. Touchdown Cougars. Manasseh Tonga. There's that power football running right behind Sete Alai, the senior center.
And there's Pitta as he goes in motion. You mentioned a 3 tight end set. He's your move guy, and a nice block at the point of attack on Alan Karatapian that time.
Robert and I said we run this system here similar to Texas Tech. Their strength in their skill positions comes from their wide receivers. Our strength at BYU is that we can recruit big, strong, quick tight ends. So it's the same, not necessarily the same, but a very similar offensive system, just a different strength in Provo. It has been a big night of big plays.
It's been big plays by these wide receivers of Tulsa, and Paul Smith has done a pretty good job. You see him there outside the pocket, throwing way back across, and a nice pass that time. Charles Clay out of the backfield, and again beating down. BYU has answered. Austin Colley with a nice catch, and then back to Paul Smith again, just finding these young wide receivers running past this secondary of BYU. Brendan Marion's had 2 catches for 124 yards.
And Paul Smith, 42 career touchdown passes. 4 of those coming tonight. Smith has already thrown for 280 yards. Hall at $199 right now. 6 touchdowns in the air for these 2 teams.
Both of these quarterbacks are going to establish career highs in passing tonight at this rate. I mean, we're 7 minutes, almost 8 minutes left before the first half ends, and it's 28 all. Neither defense has really shown any ability to make the adjustments to slow down either of the other offenses.
Another short kickoff taken at the 22 by Marion. Marion trying to reverse direction. Here he goes on a sprint to the near side and brought down after an 8-yard gain. And in there on the tackle is Kellen Fowler for BYU. Well, the numbers are impressive early. Keep in mind we're still midway through the second quarter. Max Hall had 391 yards against UCLA.
280 yards passing with 8 minutes left, and really it's right there. That one interception, had one bad One bad play, one bad read where a ball he shouldn't have thrown.
How about the way this Tulsa offense started? 3 and out of their first 3 possessions. And now firing on all cylinders. The draw to Terrion Adams. Adams with a first down takes it all the way to the 45. A 15-yard carry for the junior from Moore High School here in Oklahoma. A long way to run.
And what did Coach Graham tell us? The one thing as a former and still defensive coordinator he couldn't stand were taking shots, vertical passing game, and misdirection. You show a lot of movement to the right. It's essentially misdirection as you stick it inside the hand of Terrion Adams running back to the left.
Here's Adams. They fake the handoff to him. Smith rolls out. Pressure on him. He's going to try and scramble, and he dives out of bounds after a 6-yard gain. Good footwork for Paul Smith. Set an Oklahoma prep record with over 9,500 yards passing, playing for his father Ron, who's now the head coach down the road in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Look at that, 12 yards of play tonight for Tulsa. Adams right up the middle. Bounces outside. Gooch tries to pull him down. Nixon finally wrestles him to the ground. A name we haven't said much tonight has been Brian Keel.
Once again, we talk about all this motion. What does the motion do? It forces the defense to react back to the inside. Little handoff. That's the easiest play in the world, and Terrion Adams did a good job of bouncing it back to the outside. All of this passing, all the vertical challenging down the field. BYU trying to adjust. Now you run the ball right at it.
Trev, Paul Smith was in on the end of that play throwing blocks.
Oh, that's why they love him. That's why he's a 3-year starter.
Overthrew that one, trying to get it to Trey Johnson. Paul Smith got married last spring to Krista, the former Krista Barker, a soccer player here at Tulsa.
Guess how many scholarship offers he had coming out of high school?
Only one more than me.
Yeah, it's true. One. There's a ton of players in this Tulsa team that had one scholarship offer. But they're the type of players that Todd Graham and his staff just love.
And it started with Steve Cragthorpe, now the head man at Louisville. Todd Graham was his defensive coordinator for a few years before going down to Rice, turning that program around. Pressure right up the middle. Smith lets it go. That will be marked as a first down. First catch of the night for Jesse Meyer from Powerhouse Jenks.
Brandon Howard comes up to make the play that time, but BYU's tried just about everything. They try to bring a little pressure to the outside, but so far the whole purpose of this offense, as we've mentioned, Gus Malzahn, is to dictate to the defense. See, defenses are always trying to dictate to the offense what they have to do. This offense dictates to you. You have to react to what they're doing.
Smith checks with Malzahn on the sideline. Play clock at 6. Don't see that very often. Over the middle, Trey Johnson couldn't haul it in. Pressure was on Paul Smith again that time.
BYU making some adjustments now. Brian Keel, we said we haven't mentioned him much. They come inside, come on a little pressure, a little game. Again, you have man-to-man outside, and if they're going to have that much time sitting back in a 3-deep zone to essentially make man-to-man coverage, you might as well come with some pressure from your linebackers.
All right, 2nd and 10 now. Man in motion. Play action again. Pressure on. Smith chucks it off his back foot and incomplete. Had to get rid of it in a hurry. They had Sean Doman coming in.
See, it's just philosophically not what BYU wants to do defensively. They're not a big zone blitzing team, but once again, here comes Brian Keel. You're going to get Papinga coming in the middle there. Gets another hit on Paul Smith.
Papinga, the transfer from Utah State. Had brother Brady playing for the Green Bay Packers these days. 3rd and 10. Pressure on, down he goes. Jens Jorgensen brought him down from behind. You gotta locate number 84.
Yeah, that's good pressure, but it's also good coverage by BYU that time. Again, showed pressure from the outside by Keel. He drops off into coverage, but they get some initial pressure, and Paul Smith has to hold it, and there's Jorgensen not quitting on the play and gets in on a nice hit on Paul Smith. Finally, this defense did some changes, made some adjustments, and got a stop.
Here's Jared Tracy. This will be a 45-yard attempt towards the new Case Athletic Complex, brand new $10 million facility. Had its groundbreaking last night, and the net saves those brand new windows from getting popped. Fireworks going off again. 31-28. First team to 70 wins it.
And he wanted to pay homage to it and wanted the current players to understand what some former players have done here.
There's Colley up the middle. He's had a strong night in returns, and now he stretches it to the BYU sideline. Here goes number 9, and finally brought down past midfield. That time it was Paul Hirado handling the kickoffs, and he makes another tackle. We might see a record for points scored and a record for kickers notching tackles tonight.
And a pretty good job, but Colley has just really set this offense up again by using his speed, going to the right. Really does this individually. Sees a little hole back to the outside, and it's just pure speed by Austin Colley to get down the sideline. And once again, 45-yard line, the offense in position.
And so this Colley mix, returning and receiving, exactly what BYU had in mind. A brand new Case Athletic Complex, not the only changes in store for the facilities here in Tulsa. Recently renamed Skelly Field now at H.A. Chapman Stadium. Another big gift and another big change. And athletic director Bubba Cunningham doing his job for this Tulsa program and this football program. There's a flag coming in late after that carry from Harvey Unga.
You're going to get a hold BYU's offense, and John Bell is back into the game and just does a great job of getting off the ball on the snap in the backfield and is held.
Holding, offense number 76, 10-yard penalty, repeat, first down.
Ray Fanga gets flagged, and so you got the new athletic complex with locker rooms and everything. Here's a look at what the new stadium will look like. Beautiful plaza outside, skyboxes, new press box. They're going to return the color of the seats to the old concrete and stone look. And this is a community team, Trev. This isn't, you know, a statewide supported school, the smallest Division I school in the nation. And a lot of folks who are season ticket holders and come to these games, they might be OU fans, they might be Oklahoma State fans, they might be Arkansas fans. And the job that the staff has done, starting with Todd Graham, has been to make the community embrace his team. And with only less than 3,000 people here as undergrads, you got to look to the community for some support.
And I don't think that people really realize how close this program almost came to just shutting down. Yep. I mean, they had a difficult decision to make. It had gotten that bad and lean here.
Max Hall steps up. He's going to run with it. And he is up in it at the 40-yard line. Coming in to make the play was Chris Chamberlain. Funny story told by Todd Graham last night at the groundbreaking for the new facility, the Case Athletic Complex. He said, you know, when I got here and Steve Cragthorpe picked me up from the airport, he got in my car and he drove me. We pulled up to the office and he said, I'm going to hold on your keys for a little while. And Todd said, Coach, why are you taking my keys? He goes, I don't want you to leave when you see your office. We need you to stay here. Don't let the facilities scare you. And they won with those facilities. And now their recruiting has picked up big time with the new stuff. Third down. Hall off his foot. What a grab by the tight end. Pitta with another catch.
See, there's that poise again of Max Hall and pocket awareness, feeling a little pressure, escaping a little bit, finding some extra time. And we talked about those tight ends, getting matchups that you can win. He gets to the outside. Anthony Germany's going to end up on him man-to-man. See, Max Hall feels a little pressure, knows internally he's got it, throws on the run, and Pitta just gets behind Anthony Germany and makes a nice grab.
Another downed Tulsa player. Moulton Hopkins, after that catch by Pitta, is on the turf. And that is another guy from the line. They lost John Bell, who has yet to return to this game.
Well, and you mentioned Todd Graham and the staff. Steve Craigthorpe did an outstanding job. He deserves a lot of credit for what he accomplished. But, you know, the deal is when you brought Todd Graham back and he brought some guys who were high school coaches in this area, you know, that's one of the things you do as a high school coach. It's a community team. You reach out to the community. You make this team sort of an integral part of the community. That's what high school football is all about. And you sort of get that feel here at Tulsa. And it's pretty exciting to see the kinds of things that are being built here, not only already built, but they're going to be built in the future.
Hopkins, honorable mention all conference last year, helped to his feet. Take a look. As Hopkins comes to the sideline. They're taking another look at this one to see if it was indeed a catch. And Pitta had it when he went to the turf. They review every play in college football. They just don't stop play to review them all. Oh, look into the end zone. Allen with a leaping grab, and Matt Allen has the score. Flag on the play in the backfield.
And it's a flag that's thrown generally in the area where holding is called, and that was a play that took a while to develop. Had to get the receivers in their routes, and Matt Allen came up open in the back of the end zone. The flag came after the ball was thrown.
This is a Mountain West officiating crew. Last week in the Rose Bowl, Bronco Mendenhall not happy with the job Pac-10 officials did, and the fans furious with the job the Pac-10 officials did. And we talked about that. You talked about that with Bronco Mendenhall. The tough task of the Pac-10 going on the road, and you always have to use their officials.
And he talked, you know, I mean, Bronco Mendenhall's not a guy to make excuses. I mean, the first thing he said was, look, we didn't play well, and he took it upon himself. My job is to prepare my team, and they weren't ready to play. But clearly, you ought to have at least mixed crews when you go on the road.
After the play, personal foul, offense, number 67. The touchdown is good. That penalty will be enforced on the free kick.
That was the center, Sete Aula'i, a Remington Award candidate. What is it about this BYU team, Trev? Why are we seeing not only so many penalties, but so many personal fouls?
Well, that's a perfect example. That's just an unnecessary penalty there that, you know, is obviously going to affect them in terms of field position when Tulsa receives the kickoff. But it's certainly not the way Bronco Mendenhall coaches. It's an aggressive team.
It's tough to think that 1 point is going to make a difference in this game, but that could be the case as the extra point is missed by Brian Smith. He also missed a short field goal earlier this game in his first extended action tonight for BYU. The freshman walk-on from Orem, Utah. And so it's a 3-point game after that tremendous catch by Matt Allen, and the senior from Peoria, Arizona. Allen, a big part of this team, but that was his first grab.
You're going to see it here. You're going to get a motion time out of the backfield by Unga that time. And Matt Allen, these wide receivers. Remember I mentioned it was going to take some time. You get the inside route here. Allen's going to go back to the corner. And just the fact that Unga goes in motion freezes that defense. It allows Matt Allen to get back into the end zone. And again, Max Hall with a nice throw. But it all starts up front. When you have an offensive play that takes some time to develop, the offensive line did a nice job of protecting Max Hall.
3 minutes and 11 seconds from halftime here in Tulsa. Enough time for, I don't know, 3 more scores probably the way this one's going. BYU with a 6-minute advantage on the clock. At the kickoff from their own 15, and a short high kick taken on the run. Nowhere to go. Great coverage on that short kick as Brennan Marion gets maybe a yard at it. We're talking a lot about Max Hall tonight. Well, we got more Max for you. Want to know about high school superstars before they hit the big time? Go to maxpreps.com for all the latest news, scores, highlights, streaming video, and in-depth features on the nation's top teams and players in the world of high school football and beyond.
Tom, I have a question for you, and maybe you can help me with this. In that situation, a 15-yard penalty, why wouldn't BYU just kick it out of bounds? Because then it's automatically on the 35-yard line.
That's a great point.
They're now at the 43-yard line. Kick it out of bounds. Just kick it 10 yards, kick it out of bounds, and let them have the ball at the 35.
43-yard line with no return. Smith had to cock his arm. He wanted a flag, trying that time to get rid of it to Charles Clay.
And of course, the adjustment for BYU is this simply: we just can't sit back and let Paul Smith attack our defense that way. We have to find a way, create some pressure. They haven't gotten consistent pressure with just the front three, and so they're starting to bring some linebackers off the edge.
2nd and 10 now for Tulsa. Setting up the screen pass to answer that pressure, and Terrion Adams runs over a guy and takes it for a first down right over the top of Quinn Gooch. 25 on 25. And Tulsa comes out on top of that one.
We got a flag down on the field, but you mentioned a very good call that time to counteract that pressure, invite the pressure, dump it off, and a good physical run by Terrion Adams as he runs over Quinn Gooch.
And so the officials huddling here to figure this one out. The flag is down all the way back at the 25-yard line in the defensive backfield.
No foul on the play for clipping. The block was from the side. First down.
So one official saw clipping. The other ones did not. Saw it enough to throw the flag at least. Thought he did.
Sort of an interpretation type of a foul. Is he on the side? Is he in the back? Is it clipping? Is it not? After conferring, they decided it's not a clip. You see what happened right there, Tom? BYU shows its hand. Linebackers come up acting like they're going to blitz, and what does Paul Smith do? Looks back to the sideline. They change the play because they know they're getting a blitz.
And they get the blitz, and they get to Paul Smith. David Nixon found Paul Smith, and they're going backwards, a loss of 10.
You got to like the adjustment that Bronco Mendenhall has made in this game. Forget it. They're going to have guys. We are going to bring our linebackers. Look at all these linebackers right here coming up around the line of scrimmage. Some come, some don't. There's Poppinga coming up, and there's David Nixon fighting through the block right there of the running back. Terrion Adams does a nice job getting off of that block and getting a sack that time on Paul Smith.
2nd and 19. Here's Adams, and he's dropped in the backfield. Poppinga again.
BYU, Tom, literally is blitzing its linebackers now on every play. Every play. That time they came on a little bit of a game. Rather than just coming, they actually crisscrossed it, middle linebacker and outside linebacker. Watch Poppinga. He goes this way. You get the other linebacker that comes in that way, and Poppinga does a nice job of blitzing in that gap, getting into the backfield, and make a nice open field tackle on Terrion Adams. I got to tell you, it's a lot more fun to play defense when you have an aggressive mentality.
BYU uses the timeout here with 1:35 to go. They can stop the clock, get one more score in before half. Trev, you were saying?
Well, as a defensive player, if you're in a game and you're playing sort of this tentative type defense where it's always dropping back in zone, you have to be careful that you don't create a mentality of your defense that's sort of passive. You know what I mean? If you're a linebacker consistently just saying, well, look, we'll give them yards, but we're going to bend but don't break. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what Bronco Mendenhall does with his defense. I mean, it's been a very, very sound defense, a great scoring defense all of last year. But it wasn't working. Bottom line, Tulsa in that first quarter was running past the corners of BYU. They've made the adjustment. They're bringing pressure every play, and they're not allowing Paul Smith to sit comfortably in the pocket.
BYU faithful here again tonight. They packed 20,000 BYU fans into the Rose Bowl last week. But a good section of folks that would be supporting the Cougars are missing. The local missionaries had planned to come to this game, but their curfew is 10:30. When the game time was moved back, they were forced to stay home tonight. Knocked away at the last second by Brandon Howard. Smith was looking for Trey Johnson. And now Tulsa will have to punt it away.
You can mix things up. You can do things differently. That time now you got him in a predictable situation. You don't bring pressure off the outside. And actually, there's Brian Keel right there. He's your linebacker. way back 30 yards in coverage. So Bronco Mendenhall mixing things up defensively.
Austin Collie has had a big night of returns already. BYU got their hand on one punt. Here's Collie with room to get started from his 20. 8-yard return for Austin Collie. Pardon me, excuse me. That was Bryce Mowika on the return. Lost his helmet, but picked up 8 yards. And we've got 1:19 to go for Max Hall and company.
All right, so we've seen the adjustment that BYU's made defensively. It'll be interesting now to see the adjustment that maybe Tulsa makes defensively. Dennis Pitta and these tight ends have done a good job of attacking in the middle of the field. He's been their move guy. They've gotten their running backs out into the flat a little bit. They've sort of damaged Tulsa a little bit in the middle of the field with their tight ends.
Trying to set up a crossing route. It gets bunched up, so they go to the sideline, and we got another head knocker. And I know as an old defensive player, you just love to see these licks, don't you?
Well, you do, but you kind of let your running back out in the flat. Just a good hit out there by Steve Craver, and Joe Seminoff just had leaked out sort of as that last guy, and Max Hall looking out, didn't find anybody, and finds Joe out there in the flat, and you're that running back running and catching the ball. You feel him coming, and really nothing you can do about it. You just have to absorb the hit.
Seminoff doesn't get a lot of playing time, doesn't get the ball thrown to him a lot. Now he's got, it's like, listen, this is my second catch, and I got to come over here and fix my helmet. This is an interconference clash tonight. Tune in next week for a triple header on the gridiron. We kick the day off with Duke and Navy at 1 o'clock Eastern. And then Conference USA and Mountain West matchups. Colorado State takes on Houston at 4:30 Eastern. SMU and TCU square off in a battle for the Iron Skillet. We'll be in Fort Worth at 8:30 Eastern. And a tip of the cap to Troy Calhoun and the folks up at Air Force for their big win Thursday night against a TCU team, which granted had a short week to get ready, but a big win. And now what does that do for BYU, a team that was undefeated in conference last year? Air Force is 3-0, a couple of big key conference wins. I don't want to say BYU's in the driver's seat, but they certainly like where they are right now.
Well, you'd have to think so. Last year, as you mentioned, undefeated in the Mountain West, and probably the most complete team. You know, TCU, it's so difficult for them because their preseason schedule, it's so emotional. You know, they play teams like Baylor, they play Texas, and you know Gary Patterson, they put so much into that game, going on the road to Austin, and they're leading the game. It's 10-0 at halftime, and then they come back, and to lose the game the way they lost it, just demoralized. But I think the bigger story is probably Troy Calhoun, and Air Force, and the job that he's done taking over for Fisher DeBerry.
Academy graduate Troy Calhoun taking over for Fisher DeBerry. Good catch out of the backfield will move the chains for Manasseh Tonga. Max Hall trying to hurry this offense up under a minute. Clock stops as they move the chains. We'll also have Air Force and Navy, Air Force and Army later this year. Service academies. Army lost at Wake Forest today. Air Force wins it in overtime. Navy lost in overtime this afternoon. Another completion. Mowika.
See what BYU is doing, Tom. They're taking their two outside receivers vertically running down the field, and then they always have crossing routes in the middle of the field, trying to lose those linebackers with the crossing routes, and Max Hall's been pretty effective right in the middle of the field.
Has to pick the ball up, goes underneath, and a nice tackle by Nelson Coleman that time to get Matt Allen to the turf. Clock is running at 32. They catch Tulsa in a defensive shift. They have to hurry some guys off, and Hall will spike it. Now BYU has one timeout remaining.
Alan Karatapian asked to come out. He's nicked up a little bit, so Mike Blyan, the backup middle linebacker, comes into the game for Alan Karatapian. We talked about the pressure that this Tulsa offense puts on defenses, and so far BYU's offense putting a lot of pressure on this Tulsa defense here in the second quarter.
And both offenses putting up a ton of yards here in the first half. A snap gets by Hall, and they whistle it dead. The play never got started. And the line judge, his whistle wasn't heard, but he'll hustle to the referee and say no snap. Regardless, if you're Max Hall, don't you have to fall on that ball?
Yeah, he's standing here looking to the right. He sees the ball.
Play. Timeout. Tulsa.
Could have been terrible that time as he stood there. The ball snapped to him, just kind of watches it. And Mike Bryan, who had just come into the game, was active, got on the ball, but fortunately for BYU, the play is called dead.
Keith Patterson in the middle of that defensive huddle with head coach Todd Graham, former college teammates and roommates at East Central Oklahoma. They led East Central to an NAIA title game, and Patterson actually left when Steve Cragthorpe went to Louisville.
Keithman here. Obviously, you have an offense that's a spread offense with a good quarterback, but you run the ball on first down and establish that offensive line.
It has been a physical night as expected. Pops on both sides. Enough to break out the Advil. We've seen a little bit of everything here through one half of play. And Todd Graham mentioned nobody's asking for their money back tonight. Bronco Mendenhall said he expected to see a wild second half. Ball bobbled but hauled in. Helmet lost. Dennis Pitta. And boy, is he having a big night. 5th catch of the night as he's now just shy of 100 yards receiving.
Right, BYU has just found that soft spot in this zone of Tulsa's defense. They get those linebackers around the line of scrimmage, and they drop off, just rush 3, but they're getting the tight ends, the move guys, Dennis Pitta behind those linebackers, and Max Hall's delivering.
Pitta 99 yards for the first 2 games, 95 yards receiving tonight for BYU. Couple of plays, couple of first downs, and that one incomplete, trying to get it out to Austin Collie on the out route.
Come with pressure that time. Alan Karatapian comes off the edge that time, and just mixing things up. It's Austin Collie, the kind of production that he's had. Really, it's been the return yards. He's really set his offense up, done a nice job in the return game.
They have so many weapons. It seems each week, even early in the season, that one guy steps up big, and all of their weapons are multi-dimensional. Unga had 194 total yards against Arizona. Hall steps out of trouble, and that one's picked off. Here comes Roy Roberts for Tulsa, and he sees all green.
Well, you're just going to see a bad decision by Max Hall as he goes back. He feels the pressure, throws into double coverage. Wanted to go to Andrew George that time, and Roy Roberts just sitting back, sits down in his zone. Hit the fist pump as he sees the end zone. Pick 6, Tulsa.
Extra point is good. 38 on the board for the Golden Hurricanes. Turnovers, penalties, dogged BYU against UCLA. And they're back again tonight.
Well, let's go to the touchdown here, Tom, as we see Max Hall. He wants to go right out here to the tight end. You look at Andrew George, he just sort of quits on the route. He doesn't finish the route. He stops, not almost expecting to get the ball, and the ball ends up in the hands of Roy Roberts. You know, that often happens. You're a player. Andrew George has not caught a pass tonight, doesn't finish his route. Max Hall throws the ball where he expects his tight end to be. He stops, gives up on the route, and it's an interception and a touchdown for Tulsa.
So a pick 6 for the Golden Hurricane, their first this year. The last one came against Mike Price's UTEP Miners last season. Here's Collie. Collie up the middle to the 32-yard line. Big first half. Chris Chamberlain had 8 tackles. He had that last pick 6 for TU against UTEP. I've talked a lot about Max Hall. How about Max Preps? If you want to know about high school superstars before they hit the big time, go to maxpreps.com for all the latest news, scores, highlights, streaming video, and in-depth features on the nation's top teams and players in the world of high school football and beyond. And I don't know if there's any state stronger. You could talk Texas and Florida, but the passion with which the folks of Oklahoma follow their high school football, especially right here with teams like Union and Jenks, who played last week here at Skelly Field. Unga with the carry. Just shy of the first down. Will leave 2nd and 1.
We're starting to have a little bit of success on first down. The first down runs, running behind the left side of that offensive line. Unga doing a pretty good job of pounding it in there. Like to see more of those first down runs, trying to attack the middle of this Tulsa defense.
Keep it on the ground. Unga with a nice move at the line of scrimmage. Not only got the first down, but got it nearly to midfield.
You see this offensive line of BYU just getting down, and that's a pretty good read right there. I mean, it had some penetration in the backfield, and Unga, these are big guys, but that doesn't mean they're not nimble. There's good feet as he slips out, finds that little hole, and gets enough for the first down.
Offensive coordinator Robert Anai for BYU told us they want their guys to drag the pile a little bit. Instead of a 1-yard gain, make it a 4 or 5-yard gain. And when you look at what will be now 2nd and 5, you're putting your team in pretty good position. The big fellas up front. Travis Bright, the right guard.
See, they're in that 2-point stance, and it makes it a little bit more difficult as Alan Karatapian comes up and finally makes the play. But you're in that 2-point stance, and as a defender, a lot of times you're trying to get a read on that offensive lineman. If there's a whole bunch of weight on that front hand, you know it's probably a run. They sit in that 2-point stance and are still pretty effective run blockers from that stance.
Veteran line for juniors and a senior, and they're not out at the field. They're tearing up the $5 buffet at Doc's Pizza. How's that guy in business? Here's another pick off of the tip, and Tulsa gets another. Chris Chamberlain gets his mid shot.
Well, things have started to go from bad to worse for this BYU offense. Just a simple throw right over the middle. Wanted to go to Tonga that time, but a nice hit. Nelson Coleman right in position. It's just a short little pass right over the middle. And Tonga can't come down with it, and there's Chris Chamberlain to pick off another interception of Max Hall.
Tarian Adams to midfield. 2 picks tonight for the Tulsa defense, coming on back-to-back possessions for Max Hall and BYU. 2nd and 4 now. Faked the end around, gave it to Tarian Adams, and they'll have 3rd and short now.
You can sort of see the chess match that goes on with coaches, Tom, as if, you know, early on BYU just dropping everybody into a zone. The wide receivers of Tulsa running past them. So now you get the linebackers on the line trying to get some pressure on the quarterback. Now they go back to the running game. Does Tarian Adams in Tulsa.
Lost his mouthpiece on that pop.
It's a good hit by David Nixon.
Paul Smith takes a play off. Put the wide receiver in there at quarterback, and A.J. Whitmore with the carry, and they're going to come out and I think they're going to measure this one because it is right on the money. Referee gets a good look, stops time, says let's bring out the chains. It's not as if the chain gang hasn't been running enough tonight.
Kind of a little change here, though, after halftime. We saw BYU try to establish the run a little bit. Tulsa as well, slowing things down a little bit, catching their breath. Their defense got a couple turnovers and 2-3 straight plays and get a first down on the ground for Tulsa's offense.
On the nose of the ball just enough to give them a first down. Only 12 yards on their first 3 possessions. Since then, this Tulsa offense on fire. They start the play, they get the play off in 3 seconds. Here's a reverse. He wants to throw the ball, and a wide open receiver, Deon Tolliver, takes it to the 10. Tricky.
Well, we've been talking all night, Tom, haven't we, about that action when you get the motion action in the backfield and the aggressiveness. Watch BYU's player come aggressive. You get that action, the reverse action, and slipping out into the backfield unnoticed by BYU's defenders is Deon Tolliver, and a huge gain for Tulsa.
So a couple of snaps. Well, Paul Smith hasn't either been a quarterback or making a play, and here's the inside give and a Tulsa touchdown. How did Terrion Adams get free?
Just good aggressive running that time by Terrion Adams. Again, you get the motion, freezes the defense just enough, showed the option look off the inside handoff to Terrion Adams, breaks a tackle and cuts back into the end zone for a touchdown.
Kick is good from Jared Tracy. The big play, the halfback pass from the second. Hopkins now. Elliott Allen was in there. Here's Hall. Pass complete, short of the first down marker to Manasseh Tonga.
Todd Graham and his staff really did a nice job of mixing things up as they told us they would. The last play, they brought 2 linebackers right in the middle, the heart of that offensive line. That time, again, they show a little bit, just rush 3, drop 8, come up and make the tackle and force the 4th and short.
4th and 1. They leave Max Hall and the offense out there, trailing by 11. Nelson Coleman and company licking their chops. They load it up by formation. 7 off the fullback. He'll lead the way. First down and a few more for Tonga.
You see that offensive line again. You got to get lower than the defenders, but sometimes you just have to make people miss. You see Tonga back there just cuts back, and there's a defender there. They hit him low. It's a first down for BYU.
7 off with that block to occupy Coleman from his middle linebacker spot. 1st and 10, BYU. Wingo had been carrying the ball, and now it's Tonga in the backfield with Hall. Hall lets it go off the hands of his tight end, Dennis Pitta.
Sort of been that kind of day for BYU, hasn't it? I mean, they finally get the matchup that they want. They get Pitta out in space against a linebacker. Nelson Coleman had him beat by a step or 2 and just doesn't hang on to the ball.
95 yards of receiving tonight for Pitta, but wants that one back.
I mean, they've really done some good things, but just as they're starting to do good things, they'll have a penalty, have a crucial drop. It's been that sort of night for BYU's offense.
Nearly 100 yards of penalties for BYU, just killing them. Unga dragged down from behind by Alan Karatapian, still on his feet. How did he get out of there? It turns in to a 4-yard gain. Karatapian let him slip away somehow.
Karatapian's just going to come off the edge unblocked and has an open angle there to make the tackle, but that's just great effort by Harvey Unga, just keeping the legs churning.
First-year offensive line coach Mark Weber getting those big fellas up front working. 3rd and 7. Need to get to the 26. 4-man route over the middle. Another diving grab by Matt Allen. Allen already with a touchdown catch tonight when he laid out, and the Russian judge gives him a perfect 10 on this one.
Sometimes when you're Max Hall, you're sitting there in the pocket, you know you're going to get hit. Once again, Tulsa brings pressure. They brought Anthony Germany off the edge. Max Hall sits in there, finds his receiver, and throws a strike to Matt Allen.
Another Tulsa player down. Todd Graham cut his teeth at a couple of different high school jobs. Division II level, as he said, I've been in those bus leagues. I've painted the field. I've mowed the field. I've been the equipment guy, and finally got his break when Rich Rodriguez brought him along to West Virginia, part of one of the best turnarounds in the nation, and the turnarounds that Todd Graham has been a part of, not limited to the Mountaineers, a group that lost to Temple when they first got there, and then the next year able to hold Virginia Tech to just 88 yards rushing when they had Kevin Jones and Lee Suggs as they helped Moton Hopkins off the field. Part of the turnaround here was Steve Cragthorpe, the biggest turnaround that year when they first made it to Tulsa, and then did the same thing at Rice when they won 6 in a row for the first time since 1949.
Just tell Todd Graham, I mean, he's a fighter. He can just tell he loves to go places. He said it's kind of refreshing coming to Tulsa, where not that it hadn't, it's reached its highest peak, but rather than starting over and building from scratch.
All checks at the line, 1st and 10. They can get a first down inside the 1, but the left tackle jump. Dallas Reynolds.
I think there's going to be a question whether or not John Bell sort of simulated to come to make Dallas Reynolds jump. John Bell was the first person to move.
Offside defense, number 97, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
John Bell disagrees. Just happy to be back in the game, though, after a scary injury in the first quarter.
See, as a defender, they're saying, see that he jumps. That forces the offensive lineman to react to him. They call offsides on John Bell.
I'm sure as an old defensive guy, you got a couple tricks up your sleeve to try and get that guy in the end to jump.
Well, I always found that the offensive linemen weren't always the brightest of fellas, so it didn't take a lot.
Here's 1st and 5 from the 6. Pitta in motion. He's the lead blocker for Tonga, and Tonga stays on his feet and gets into the end zone.
Well, he got in the end zone, Tom, because there's a terrific block at fullback by Joe Seminoff. A great lead block just off of left tackle. He's going to take on Randy Duncan, number 7. Watch the fullback right there. Gets into the hole and drives the defender onto the ground. A terrific block by Joe Seminoff.
Well, the light bulb's still working on the scoreboard, but they may not be for long. That is the 2nd extra point missed by true freshman Brian Smith, who's having a rough day with extended playing time tonight as the kicker for BYU. But Max Hall directing this offense. Frank's first catch, and the junior from Houston has a 14-yard gain.
But see, that's why they look over to the sideline. They wait till BYU shows its hand. That time BYU showed pressure with the linebackers. David Nixon on the outside was going to come with pressure. So what play do they call? Right at the pressure, they slip Jacob Frank out into the back, right where the linebacker had vacated, and it's a first down Tulsa.
Career night for Paul Smith, 316 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, both highs in each category. There's Smith rolling. Trying to fit one in on the short side of the field. Trev, one of the things we talked about at the beginning of this game was how BYU plays field side and boundary side. How has that worked out for Tulsa tonight?
Well, I mean, I think you can, as an offensive coordinator, when you know where that back 7 or back 8 is going to be, in the sense that your corners, you have field corners and you have boundary corners, you can attack a certain place. And I think they found soft spots. They attack certain places. They've gotten big plays in that. And how many times have we mentioned Brian Keel?
Not a heck of a lot. Trey Johnson on the screen and works hard for 4 yards.
Pretty good example there. Where did they attack again? They attacked to the boundary, to the weak side, away from the 2 best players of BYU, Jan Jorgensen at right defensive end and Brian Keel. Will fake to the left, go back to that weak side, back to the boundary, and back to Trey Johnson, who, boy, these Tulsa coaches are going to be, they got to be so excited about all these young freshmen and the speed and the wide receivers that they have for the future.
Going to that boundary side, Ben Criddle does have 1 interception tonight. But all the big plays for Tulsa, a majority of them have come between the hash marks. Smith fakes the end around. And he's going to try and get rid of it, and he chucks it to the BYU sideline, well out of the tackle box and well past the line of scrimmage.
It's a good job by BYU's defense there. They've been struggling all night. And I think one of the reasons why they've really struggled is because Tulsa as an offense waits for you to show your hand. At some point, you stand there and don't do anything, and at the last minute, you come on your blitz. But the moment BYU shows pressure, Tulsa responds.
4 wideouts. Clock winding. BYU has to use a timeout. I mean, Tulsa has thrown everything but the kitchen sink at him tonight.
Well, it's dictating to the defense. I mean, they're not going to allow you to dictate to them what they do offensively. So it's 4th down, and everybody's thinking, well, you're going to punt, right? And Broncos saying, well, it's 4th down, so finally we've got to stop. We're going to punt. They run right back to the line of scrimmage. He looks out there, doesn't like the coverage that he's got called, and says, oh, timeout.
And the wrong personnel in there as well. 5:26 to go. Remember that 4th down play. They went for a 1st down when Paul Smith faked like he was going to pooch it.
See, I think the adjustment, Tom, is just like Tulsa does defensively. They get Nelson up there on the line of scrimmage and Karatapian, and they drop out of that. I mean, every single play, if you watch Tulsa's defense, you think there's 3 linebackers, Chris Chamberlain, Anthony Germany. You don't know where they're coming from. And then they drop out. They drop different guys out. BYU's sort of easy to figure out. You know when they're coming with pressure, then you call a play to counteract that pressure.
All right, 4th down, 4th and 6. Smith makes the adjustment, plenty of time to do so. Now he lines up like he will pooch it away, and he does indeed. Not the prettiest off the foot, but it'll look good in the box score if it gets out, and it does indeed inside the 5. Paul Smith can play some quarterback. He's a great guitar player, and now he can kick a little bit too.
But what did they just accomplish there? They forced BYU to use a timeout, didn't they?
Yep.
I mean, we may not think it's a big deal right now, but as this game progresses, it's 45-40. Now all of a sudden BYU's lost a timeout.
Well, BYU has lost a lot tonight with a lot of mistakes. 2 picks, 1 that was returned for a touchdown. They missed a pair of extra points tonight with the freshman handling the kicking duties. This is Roy Roberts on the return, and then here's a 2nd pick on consecutive possessions. A missed field goal in addition to the 2 extra points, and it has been ugly for BYU. The good news is you're down 5, and number 45 has the ball again. Runs through one would-be tackler. Great blocking on the edge from his wide receiver. Michael Reed had the cornerback locked up, and Harvey Unga with the 1st down carry.
And Michael Reed had a good block on the outside, but it was really sprung initially with a block from Austin Collie. Right there, you see Austin Collie's, he makes that block, and he's probably the wide receiver, I would say, that really has stepped up and showed the most speed. I mean, he has the most athleticism, and he's willing to block. And I think here you take a chance at some point. They've established the run a little bit. I'd like to see BYU take a chance vertically as well.
They keep it on the ground. Unga hit in the backfield by Randy Duncan, and Duncan and Coleman walk Unga back to the 5-yard line.
It's an active defense, isn't it? It's fun to play defense. Look at Nelson Coleman walking around. A little inside handoff there. Nobody gets a handle on Nelson Coleman. Nobody gets on Randy Duncan.
Pardon me, that was Steve Craver who got back there.
get that many guys around the line of scrimmage, so interchangeable. You can play free safety, you can play rover, bandit. You move all of them around.
Coleman drops into coverage after showing blitz. Hall finds his running back for a big gain, but short of the first down. Will bring 3rd and short. You know, we talk about their great tight ends, 3 really good tight ends, but Manasseh Tonga is a lot like a tight end when he gets out of that backfield.
Yeah, he's 6 foot, 235 pounds, and it's an easy throw. You know, it's in the middle of the field, it's right in the vision, and you're looking for matchups. And here's your running back matched up man-to-man with Nelson Coleman, the middle linebacker. You'd like to think you can win that matchup in space.
3rd and less than a yard for BYU. They've hit on 6 of 11 third down attempts tonight. Old school 2 tight ends, high formation. First down and then some. Karatapian and Roberts finally corral Tonga to the ground without his helmet.
I think we could do a graphic on how many helmets have come off tonight too. I mean, this has been a physical game. Again, the point of attack, the big line, just hitting the hole. Tonga that time. Very important first down for BYU's offense.
An 11-yard carry behind those big linemen. They go 328, 322, 297, 320, and 325. Fullback Seminoff back in the game. Play action. Hall's got Seminoff for his 2nd catch, and he's got a first down. Carries Duncan with them past the marker.
You see, it's just bound to happen when you line up 2 tight end sets, I formation, running formation, and you establish just a little bit of run. The play action is so effective. Take that fullback, Joe Seminoff, slip him out into the backfield. Nice gain. Now, the thing off of this, again, you've established the run. Now you're going to take a shot. Get back in that formation. You're going to get Austin Collie lined up man to man. You're going to take a shot down the field.
Collie, bottom of your screen, matched up with Roy Roberts. Again, Tonga. Tonga dragged down by Terrell Nemmons.
I think what Bronco Mendenhall says is, look, I mean, defensively, I have no answers for this Tulsa offense. So the best defense I have is to just get 3 and 4 yards and make them stand over there by Gus Malzahn.
And we've joked about time of possession being overrated, but right now BYU with almost a 10-minute advantage in that column, and it's proving here in the second half that that will be a key number for BYU at the end of the night. Collie, the lone wideout. Again, Unga running right behind Andrew George. Big tight end, and Wilson Garrison.
Well, Wilson Garrison's banged up a little bit because he sort of got discombobulated as the play was developing. He was turned sideways and really wasn't in position to make a tackle and sort of ran into in an odd position.
3rd and 1 for BYU. Converted this same play just a moment ago. They load it up again, give it to the first man through. That time they had Tonga lined up as the fullback, and he gets the carry. They needed 1.5 yards. I think he might have gotten a yard, and so they'll take a close look at this one. The clock winding down in the 3rd quarter in a 5-point game.
Brings up 4th down.
Well, on the East Coast, this has turned into a Sunday morning shootout with a minute left in the 3rd quarter. Tulsa leading BYU 45-40. Tom Hart and Trev Alberts at H.A. Chapman Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma. These former WAC rivals, now in separate conferences, have brought their offenses tonight. And this is 4th and short for BYU. They've got some big numbers. They need 0.5 yard here. On the ground, he runs into his own man. Unga spreads it out and will move the chains. A pinball run after Harvey Unga bounced off of Manasseh Tonga.
And Moten Hopkins that time got into the backfield. Initial penetration, big number 93. Slows down Unga just enough, but powerful and strong enough to get the first down. Look at that initial, almost runs by Unga that time. Great penetration by Moten Hopkins.
Tonga was turning around, Trev, to block a guy coming off to the weak side. Is that appropriate in that situation?
Well, you look at your hole, you look where you're supposed to go. If no one's in your hole, you're trying to help.
What a grab made over the middle by Colley. Holds on after he takes a lick from Anthony Germany. And Austin Colley finally with a chance to haul one in after they kept the ball on the ground. Pretty. The third quarter comes to a close. The shootout continues under the lights at H.A. Chapman Stadium. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane playing their first game in about 2 weeks. They put up enough points for the month of September tonight against BYU. Is it enough to hold on?
When it's people who do the right thing, they call it being responsible. When it's an insurance company, they call it Liberty Mutual. Responsibility. What's your policy? Liberty Mutual.
It's something we all agree on. Something we all do. And this is how it's done. The USO depends entirely on the generosity of the American people. Help us support our troops until everyone comes home.
Striving to be the best, elevating their game, making an impact. The Mountain West Conference celebrates those student athletes who reach their peak in athletics, academics, and in life. Whether you're an athlete, a student, or one of the best fans in the country, you can reach your peak in the Mountain West Conference.
There have been some big numbers put up in this one. 27 points, second quarter for BYU, and now as we start the fourth, it's a 5-point game. Max Hall has directed this BYU offense, but has thrown 2 picks while doing so. And we got a jump on the right side of the line. That time it was Travis Bright. Academic all-conference selection.
5-yard penalty, remains second down.
You hate to harp on it continually, but you found yourself in a second and short, and that's what the night's been like for this offense. They've done a nice job. They've had a lot of yards, but there's been crucial situations. Now they find themselves backed up even further. It changes the complexion of what you do offensively. Another mistake for BYU.
10 times BYU has been penalized for 103 yards tonight. They got flagged 11 times last week in the loss to UCLA. Hall lets it go. Reed has it. That's enough for a first down. The Tongan trio in the BYU backfield has carried the load at opportune times tonight, moving the chains short distance plays. Tonga with 32 yards. Unga carrying the way, though, with 88 yards and a touchdown.
Well, and I think they've really established those three a little bit more here in the second half. First half, it was more the passing game. They were involved in the passing game, but Here late in the third quarter, especially the offensive line, they have asserted themselves and they've been able to run against Tulsa's defense.
3 rushing touchdowns for the backfield. Max Hall has thrown for 2. Hall steps up in the pocket, gets hit, ball loose. Tulsa football. Terrell Nemens falls on it. It was Mr. Garrison who jarred it loose. Wilson Garrison, the sophomore from Hinton, Oklahoma.
Just great pressure, not quitting from Wilson Garrison. See him there, works up the field, then back inside Dallas Reynolds. And another big play for this Tulsa defense. And another mistake for BYU.
And a big hidey-ho for Wilson Garrison and Terrell Nemens. That front 3 for Tulsa. They've been banged up, they've been nicked, they've been battered and bruised, but they're still fighting. And now the officials, this Mountain West crew, up in the booth taking another look to see if that was an incomplete pass or a fumble.
Well, either way, you're going to see it up here as a left tackle, and there's Wilson Garrison, just as Max Hall sort of steps right into that pressure as he steps up into the pocket. And Wilson Garrison comes back to the inside. And it's always interesting when you see that quarterback and he's taking the ball up. Is he beginning the motion of throwing, or is he just, you know, trying to position himself to at some point start the throwing motion?
And Trevor, you know, we've had a couple of these already this season. We've been wrong both times, so I'm not going to venture a guess on this one.
Well, as we've talked about, it's supposed to be irrefutable video evidence to the contrary. So it's supposed to be that the call on the field, it has to be so obvious that you overturn the call. So if there's a question, as you take another look at it, Max Hall takes the ball down initially, then back up, and that's when Wilson Garrison gets the hit.
Garrison, a transfer from Northeastern Oklahoma A&M.
That's a tough call.
It's a very tough call.
After review, the ruling on the field stand. First down, Tulsa.
Key wording there is he didn't say that the video backed it up. It stands. We can't decide based on the video, so our initial call is what we're sticking with.
And I think that's the right call. And we've done games, Tom, where you couldn't really tell. There was a question, and they overturned it anyway. The call on the field should stand unless it's obvious, irrefutable evidence.
2 picks, and now that fumble for Max Hall. Couple of yards for Terrion Adams. You know, Terrion Adams isn't putting big numbers on the board tonight. He's right at 50, maybe 52 yards after that carry, but stepping up for an injured Courtney Tennille. And Adams has been just enough of a change of pace to give Paul Smith room to run this offense.
Yeah, Tennille led the team with 845 yards rushing last year, was hurt in preseason camp. They hope to get him back as a medical redshirt.
It'll be his 6th year for the Oklahoma transfer. Cameron Clemens drags his way across the middle of the field for a first down. It's been a career night for Paul Smith, who will leave Tulsa as one of the most decorated quarterbacks for a school that's had a ton of good ones. Smith tonight, 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, each of those career highs. He's already had 2 seasons where he's ranked in Tulsa's top 5 in yardage. He is 2nd all-time in career yardage. Oh, that one was nearly picked off by Brian Keel. Somehow it got past his fingertips. Keel trying as hard as he can to help out tonight. Only 2 tackles and a fingertip away from taking that one from Kyle Grooms.
And that was a good job, although a first down by Tulsa that time. As you watch the replay, Paul Smith goes to the left. Brian Keel there, just not able to knock down the ball, but they showed pressure. Tulsa reacted, called that play, and then BYU didn't come with the pressure. They dropped back into their zone.
Straight up the middle with Terry and Adams to midfield. You know, watching that throw from Paul Smith, one of the things that Gus Malzahn talked to us about is why I love this kid is there's not a throw he can't make. Now, we saw him make a mistake early in the game throwing off of his back foot, but it doesn't matter where his feet are, if he's set, if he's going backwards, left or right. And it's not exactly what you would put in a book to teach quarterbacking, but he can make the throw from wherever he is.
And throws on the run so well.
Deep over the middle. Another first down. Gooch on the tackle to bring down Trey Johnson. Gus Malzahn left behind Houston Nutt and that Arkansas program to come here and work with Paul Smith. His ultimate goal is to be a head coach at this level. You can't argue with his resume that he put together at the high school level. And then leading Arkansas, even though he didn't have the liberty to run entirely his offense last year, leading Arkansas to an SEC Western Division title. Gus Malzahn, Trev, is a man of faith, and he firmly believes that he is where God wants him to be. But no matter what he says, and he's always taken the high road, that was not an enviable position to be in last year over in Fayetteville. It was tough for everybody involved.
Well, and you knew it was going to happen. I mean, the minute their offense didn't do well, people were going to say, well, he's a high school coach. But the reality is, as we sat in his offense, there was never a word from Gus Malzahn in a negative way about Houston Nutt or Arkansas. He refuses to talk negatively about that experience. He thinks it helped shape him. And the reality is, last year they did not run this offense at Arkansas. Obviously, they have a different skill set, Darren McFadden there, but he said we really ran a combination of 3 different offenses. So in the end, I think that combination, he can take some of those things and make this offense even better.
I don't know how many more combinations you can add to the offense that we've seen tonight. 1st and 20. They fake the pass to Terry Adams. They go back to Trey Johnson on the screen. And that will leave 2nd and 10 on a 10-yard gain to Trey Johnson, a freshman from Grand Prairie. His first catch went for a touchdown. And 2 of his first 3 catches as a Golden Hurricane went for scores. It is a mixed bag of signals coming over from the Tulsa sideline.
Well, you can film their sideline all you want, Tom. I don't think it's going to do any good.
No. You have to have about 14 cameras to film all the signals coming in. One guy's just holding up a big blank sheet. There's nothing on it. What are they using? Invisible ink? Over the middle, here's the fullback, Charles Clay, and another Tulsa touchdown.
Tom, they just lull you to sleep. I mean, this offense is so effective. They show you so many different looks, and there's big number 9 lined up in the backfield. You find it right down the seam, the middle of the field. And there's Charles Clay with another touchdown out of the backfield.
Tulsa's put half 100 on the board, and we're not done yet. Extra point is good. A 52-point night for Gus Malzahn's offense tonight. Charles Clay with another score for the Golden Hurricane. And the freshman sprints his way into the end zone again.
I'll take the blue one.
You don't get to the top of your game by making dumb decisions. So choose the tire that sets records, wins championships, and controls the competition from start to finish. BF Goodrich Tires. Take control.
Be one of the first million to register at freechickenandcoke.com.
(52-40) with 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter here from Tulsa, and the Golden Hurricane in their home opener have been firing on all cylinders tonight behind the direction of Paul Smith and Gus Malzahn, and their freshman Charles Clay with a 3-touchdown night. Austin Collie. No flag and a hold. Here it comes, and a hold on the near side. Collie still running. No need to do that. He will stay on his feet and get to the 25-yard line. We've got a nasty hold on the near side on that return.
Let's go back to the touchdown here and take a look. Here's BYU. It's a little subtles. Look at the big wide splits out here. BYU's just going to come with a little pressure here, but I want you to keep your eye on the safety, Quinn Gooch. As the play develops, because of those splits out wide, he's right here looking at those two guys right here, concerned about those two. And here's Clay slipping out of the backfield. Suddenly your safety, Quinn Gooch, is out of position. Charles Clay's wide open, and it's 52 points for Tulsa. You see Paul Smith as he looks over. You're going to feel a little pressure to the middle. Just get rid of it right there. The safety concerned about those two wide receivers again. But that play doesn't work, Tom, if it's not the little subtle things, making sure you've got those wide splits that force the safety, Quinn Gooch, to make sure he's not beaten by one of those two wide receivers out to his left.
A stoic Bronco Mendenhall looks on. His team just got flagged for the 11th time tonight. Markel Staffieri not only drew the flag, but drew boos from the Tulsa faithful after dragging his man down, stayed on top of him. The back end of it wasn't as bad as it looked. It was a good football play, but the front end to get his guy down drew the flag. (996) total yards tonight.
Oh, that'll change. There's almost 12 minutes left, Tom.
Paul Smith has accounted for 402 through the air with 5 touchdowns. The 4th player in TU history to go over the 400-yard mark. Hall lets it go. There's a first down to Matt Allen. You know, this BYU team in the program, we typically think of them as unflappable. We saw Matt Allen. He's an older guy. He was at Mountain West Conference Media Days, and he's like, these are a bunch of kids around here. He's 17, 18-year-old. I feel like an old man.
Well, and the old man has played awfully well. And, you know, Bronco Mendenhall, this is a very good program, and this is a very, very good team. And he's got to be so frustrated. And consider the fact they blow out Oregon, they blow out Arizona. They should have beaten UCLA. And he just hasn't been able to come up with a reason for all these penalties and mental mistakes.
18 different receivers have caught a ball tonight, 9 for each side. That one through the hands of Allen. You talked about Bronco Mendenhall and how he runs his program. One neat thing that he has instituted here at this program, Friday night fireside chats that they run on the road at the local church. They get in town on Friday. They show up at the local congregation. The first time they tried it, only 13 people showed up down in Albuquerque. And they said, Coach, I don't know if this is a good idea. Well, they came from behind and beat New Mexico and won the game. And Bronco said, hey, I'm not saying it's divine intervention. I'm not the one saying that that's what it is. You can be the judge. Here's another tip, and the ball falls incomplete. Well, you think about that. BYU with this great nationwide following, with the church that they have behind them from coast to coast. They show up into town and they say, hey, we're going to show up. We're going to have a couple of guys get up and talk about their faith, sing some songs about their faith. Could you imagine if, just compare it to Notre Dame, for example. Can you imagine Charlie Weiss every time they went on the road say, hey, we're going to be at Mass Friday night. We'd love for the locals to show up.
It'd be full. I'll tell you that much.
Sure would be.
Well, he talked to, Coach Mendenhall talked about the larger mission of BYU. You got to remember, they were 1-3 at the time and being booed when he started the fireside chats.
And turned around in a big way. Pressure on Hall. They get to him again. The ball loose and he falls out. Pocket presence to step up, but he couldn't step away from Charles Davis.
Tulsa just continues to bring pressure from the outside. They're not getting pressure inside, but they're bringing pressure all the way from the wide side of the field. Charles Davis that time. Again, these are guys coming untouched, whether it be Anthony Jeremy, Charles Davis, Steve Craver. Consistent pressure on Max Hall.
BYU forced to punt it away at a 4th and 12. And a good-looking punt from C.J. Santiago. A big hit on the would-be return, but Trey Johnson asked for a fair catch and has it at the 31-yard line. This BYU offense looking to get back on track.
Yeah, this head ball, Coach. Hey, I told you he could really go. Click, clack.
Look what happened to your home phone bill.
All right, just in time to see the action.
That low promotional rate you signed up for has disappeared.
It's called the shell game, and the phone and cable companies think they can get away with it. Now you can save up to $300 a year on your phone bill. How? Vonage!
Did your phone rate start here and keep going up? With Vonage, your rate starts low and stays low.
Awesome service. I can take you where I want to. I can call internationally. I'm saving money by just having the phone line through them versus bundling.
Plus, free calls to Europe and international rates as low as a penny a minute. And 25 premium features, all for just $24.99 a month.
Enjoy crystal clear digital sound quality using your high-speed internet connection. Try Vonage for 30 days, risk-free.
Call 1-800-975-7810. That's 1-800-975-7810 today.
12-point lead for Tulsa. Golden Hurricane back on offense. And Paul Smith from the shotgun. They show that option again. Smith pitches it forward. That'll be a pass. So they didn't run it to perfection, but it still worked out as Deion Tolliver motioned back into the backfield.
That's the...
You saw a little bit of option your time playing in the Big 8.
Well, it's the last thing off of what we saw earlier in the game. We saw the inside handoff to Terrion Adams. You knew at some point they're just going to pitch the ball. It's a simple 5-yard gain.
Play comes in from the sideline at 2nd and 5 after they get a look at the BYU defense. We were in Gus Malzahn's office yesterday, and he was still going over game tape from BYU's defense. Terrion Adams, gain of 4, will be 3rd and short. The guy just never stops.
Yeah, well, he's a wonderful man, and he was very kind to us, but it was pretty clear that he didn't really have a lot of time to sit and talk with us. I mean, he wanted to watch film.
Right.
He's one of those guys that just, what else can I do to attack this defense? And, man, I can tell. I mean, Todd Graham was right. You bring the guy in because what they do makes it so hard on you as a defense. They show you everything.
How about this snap to Smith? Takes off running with it. And, pardon me, that wasn't Smith. Let's snap that to the tailback, went right by Smith. It was Chris Chamberlain, the linebacker, getting a carry.
Chris Chamberlain scored a four-yard touchdown in the first game against Louisiana Monroe. Just another wrinkle. Again, wanting to see how the defense responds. How do they react when you take your quarterback and split him out? What happens? There is quarterback split out. There's Chamberlain inside faking a handoff, and a little high school quarterback. He's played a little quarterback in his day.
Well, Oklahoma comes in here Friday night. Speaking of watching game tape, they're going to have a lot to prepare for. Adams loses his helmet again. You're talking about Gus Malzahn watching tape. If you come in here and you got to prepare for this offense, you got to prepare for a million different looks.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Brent Venables' defensive coordinator, Bob Stoops. I know he's actively involved with that, but you know, you just like to think. I think one of the things about BYU, of course, is they just simply don't have the secondary to play bump and run. They just don't have corners that can line up and take away the wide receivers.
Here's a reverse. This is another big block laid out by Smith that time, and A.J. Whitmore scrambles for just a couple. And Paul Smith doing everything he can to lead Tulsa. Now shaking the cobwebs.
There he is. Paul Smith comes back. You get the reverse. Look at the block right there on David Nixon. Look at him size him up. He knows he's coming back. Boom, right there on David Nixon. Good block by Paul Smith. A lot of respect from your teammates in terms of leadership when you're willing to stick your nose in and block an outside linebacker.
Got to fix that chin strap. That's all fine and dandy, but I'm not sure if you want your 6'2", 195-pound quarterback laying into a guy's hip. They're going to trick it up again. Throw him back to Smith. Incomplete. As A.J. Whitmore, who was a high school quarterback, went 41-2 at Nashville High School in Arkansas and led his team to 28 straight wins. A couple of state championships. Tried to show off his arm, and he skipped it to Smith.
That was actually a pretty good coverage that time by BYU. Jake Collins, the tight end, was going down the middle of the field and well covered. Had to go back to Paul Smith, and not enough on it for an incomplete pass.
Michael Such, Nebraska transfer, gets it away. Colley at the 15, makes the first guy miss. Trying to get to that wall, gets a nice block, goes back to his original direction, and that's a 2-yard return. 52-40. Can Max Hall and BYU get back on track with 8 minutes to go?
Be one of the first million to register at freechickenandcoke.com.
When their team lost hope,
Funerals in today.
one man taught them
Let's push them to the limit, man.
where to find it.
This is who we are. We break to the whistle blow.
Matthew McConaughey.
We are Marshall.
We Are Marshall. Buy it Tuesday on DVD and on demand.
You got off that train back there, you did two things you never done before. At least not at the same time. You shook my hand, and then you looked me square in the eye. Where'd that come from?
Call 1-888-349-ARMY now for a free DVD and learn about the training, education, and other benefits that come from serving as a soldier in the U.S. Army. You'll also get a free boonie hat. Are you ready to answer the call?
I'm Casey, and this is Casey TV. My creation, my baby, my own personal drum roll, please. TV, internet, broadband, wireless college sports channel featuring Navy football in all its glory.
Your own TV mobile broad channel net. I don't get it.
That's my older brother. He's a little behind the times.
Shut up.
Now you shut up.
Be the head of your own college sports channel. Put all your teams on all your screens. Find out how at cstv.com/mychannel.
You know, you come to Oklahoma, you never know what you're going to see. Bartlesville has Andrew Lloyd Wright's only skyscraper, and Tulsa has college football's only offense that runs like this. And Max Hall trying to get his offense rolling again. This one complete to Reed, and he is ridden out of bounds. Another grab for Reed, who's having a solid night tonight. His 7th catch. We always talk about college football being a copycat sport. If something works for one team, somebody else wants to use it.
Yeah, you've seen that defensively. You've seen the 3-3-5 kind of evolve, and Tulsa's defense now being very active. They did a nice job tonight. You copy that, but I think it's really the offense of Todd Graham and Gus Malzahn, and the effectiveness and the pressure that it puts on a defense is really remarkable. It'll be interesting to see how many others. I mean, Rich Rodriguez had success with that spread offense at West Virginia. How many different teams, including Texas and all these different teams you see now, doing that inside zone read handoff?
Rich Rodriguez and Todd Graham first crossed paths in the NAIA National Championship game. Rodriguez was running an offense with no back, no huddle, and they lost the title game to Todd Graham's Northeast Oklahoma team. And he said, I really like the way that you run your team, and eventually offered him a job at West Virginia. It's strong Mountaineer influence on this entire coaching staff. Unga takes it for 6+. I believe 2nd and short.
To go back to the offense and sort of the creativity and the uniqueness of it, what also makes it difficult is it's just not something you see, Tom. I mean, BYU, you just got done with Ben Olsen and UCLA. It's so different. I mean, it's just not something you see very often. This is ridiculous.
Almost 7 yards of play for BYU, 8.5 for Tulsa. Second and 3. Hall dumps it over the middle. Here goes Unga, and Unga is out of bounds, tackled by Duncan.
You know, Tommy, we talk so much about Gus Malzahn and his offense, and rightfully so, but it's also really impressive, Todd Graham's defense. And I know that BYU has had some yards. They've had success. Obviously, they've scored 40 points in this game, but it's a defense that flies around. It's also a defense that presents problems because of all the different looks it can give you.
Anthony Germany is a Tulsa player shook up. 25th start over the last couple of years for Germany, senior from Oklahoma City. Helped up by the Tulsa training staff. Well, gaze deeply into college football's future with the fortune tellers of CSTV's Crystal Ball. Join the crew as they preview another big week in Football Nation, including Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Michigan, and much more. It's Crystal Ball Wednesday night at 7 Eastern, only on CSTV.
Nice to see Michigan bounce back. I mean, not, I guess, if you're a Notre Dame fan.
No, I mean, not at all.
Lloyd Carr just took such a beating, and that team couldn't have been. And Ryan Mallett, I mean, you talk about a true freshman quarterback.
And Mike Hart would have taken a beating had they not answered the bell today. Here's Zumba carrying guys with them once again on first down. Another flag on the play. 113 yards of penalties for BYU tonight.
After the play, personal foul, offense number 74. 15-yard penalty, 2nd down.
Trev, it's not just a 5-yard holding, an incidental face mask. We're talking 15-yard personal fouls.
Yeah, and BYU is just getting frustrated now. I mean, that's a frustration penalty. Certainly you can't blame all of the penalties throughout this game on frustration penalties. But
no, because they weren't frustrated in the first quarter.
No, he misses a block, gets back up, the play's still going, so with a player turned to his back, takes a cheap shot. Cheap shot on Steve Craven.
Easy to injure an opponent when you take a shot like that. Hall goes over the middle, has his man wide open, and a BYU touchdown. Another grab for Michael Reed. He's over 100 yards receiving tonight. Remember, they've already missed 2 extra points.
Feels a little pressure from the outside. Does Max Hall, steps right into it, and Michael Reed gets behind that secondary of Tulsa, and 52-46, chance to go to 47. The point is that Bronk will look at this film and see all of the mistakes that have more than 46 points. They had just at crucial times really hurt themselves.
New kicker into the game for BYU, and they make the extra point. It's Mitch Payne who puts it through. Had Brian Smith made a couple of more extra points, it'd be a 3-point game, and a field goal could tie it. Instead, it's a 5-point contest. Reed, 8 grabs, 132 yards from Max Hall tonight. Hall is at 453 for the evening. That was his 4th touchdown pass.
Go back to that touchdown, and you're just going to have to take a look at the safety. Now you're going to see Michael Reed. Watch this safety right here. He's got his eyes in the backfield as Max Hall is looking to the right, sort of cheats a little bit, doesn't get his hips turned, and there's Reed. Suddenly over the head of the safety again. You're staring in the backfield, and you see Max Hall. That touchdown's on Max Hall. That's looking off the safety to his right, just enough to let Michael Reed get behind the safety.
Now, I don't want to be negative, but neither safety tonight is going to be part of an instructional video.
So you're saying when Gus Malzahn, well, he might be, because when he makes up his new video.
That's right, he'll be on the other side of the video. Well, Smith was taking off extra point duties on that last touchdown. He will kick it off from the 30. They say let it go, and it will go out of bounds, and they'll have it at the 35-yard line. 52-47, Tulsa in front. We'll catch up with Connor and Caitlin as you can get one-on-one access to the best football in the West with CSTV.com's Going West, presented by ConocoPhillips. Follow our 2 road trippers as they roam the Wild West, talking game plan with the coaches, training with players, eating team dinners, tailgating with the fans, and of course taking in all the games, the big games out west, including BYU, Utah, USC, UCLA, and many more. And speaking of UCLA today, 44-6. Utah, a team that has been banged up and broken and beaten, gets a momentum win today. And if you're that Utah team, that could be a win big enough to turn your season around, at least get motivation up and momentum up after you saw just about everybody go down over the first few weeks.
Well, if you know Kyle Whittingham and his staff, I mean, they're just not quitters. I mean, you know that Utah is going to fight. They're going to fight the entire season. But I think you mentioned it's confidence. And now, especially with the injuries that they've had down the stretch, and man, Carl Burrell, I mean, that's sort of been his, well, they win big games and then they lose horribly to teams that should have beaten.
Smith wants to go deep. He is looking for Marion. He's got another big one. They work it to the boundary again.
I don't know what you say. I mean, you come with pressure. Brian Keel comes in, forces Paul Smith to throw it. It's man-to-man out there. It's actually pretty good coverage by Ben Criddle. It's just Brendan Marion going up and making a play.
After that completion, Criddle and a couple other guys on the BYU side were claiming that Marion had pushed off. And there's a lot of frustration, I think, on the defensive side of the ball for the Cougars.
It's pretty simple here. There's nothing fancy. I mean, BYU's fought back to 5-point game, and there's Ben Criddle, just never turns around, never gets his eyes around to see where the ball is, and isn't able to make a play on the ball. It's just a great individual effort by Brendan Marion.
Marion, in his first year from De Anza Junior College, he's got 171 yards tonight. Terrion Adams cuts it back, brought down by Ian Dulon. Dulon, a sophomore from Hawaii. We haven't really talked about that front three for BYU, whether it's Dulon, Mano Maliuna, or Jan Jorgensen, who's certainly been in on a few tackles, but I don't think we've given enough credit to that Tulsa line.
Well, yeah, we've focused on BYU's big, strong offensive line, but pretty good athleticism on this Tulsa offensive line.
Chamberlain back. Oh, pardon me, that's Paul Smith, the quarterback. Excuse me. Hands just went off on the end around. That was Chamberlain. It was 32 instead of 12 in at quarterback.
We've talked about these quarterbacks a lot. Paul Smith and Max Hall both have played fairly well. Some turnovers, obviously, by Max Hall, but I tell you, Paul Smith just really 5 touchdowns, 454 yards passing. You talked about how he can make all the throws. I mean, it looks easy when you get man coverage, but you still have to complete the ball. It still has to be a perfectly thrown ball where only your wide receiver can catch it. On the outside shoulder where Ben Criddle couldn't get to it.
Play clock is winding down as Tulsa lines up for this field goal attempt. It'll be a 27-yard attempt to make it an 8-point advantage. And the kick is on the way, and it is good. Jared Tracy played soccer as a youth in Spain and England. He's a Real Madrid fan, and he puts them up real big.
When it's people who do the right thing, they call it being responsible. When it's a home insurance company, they call it Liberty Mutual. Responsibility. What's your policy? Liberty Mutual.
Nissan Titan is a Strategic Vision Total Quality Award leader. It's also the only truck tough enough to deliver college football's most coveted award. The Heisman, brought to you by the Nissan Titan.
Mom, you have always been there for me. All the sacrifices you made for me. All the birthdays you made special, even though we didn't have much. I just want to tell you something that is long overdue. I just saved a bunch of money on my car insurance by switching to Geico. Love you.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
CSTV Football Nation has been brought to you by Sirius Satellite Radio. Hear the sports, talk, news, entertainment, and 100% commercial-free music you want. Sirius Satellite Radio, the best radio on radio. And by Under Armour, the advantage is undeniable. And the kickoff comes down in front of Austin Collie, takes it at the 22, full head of steam going and brought down by Alex Karatapian. Max Hall and this BYU offense have put up a ton of yards tonight. And on any other night, 47 points enough to win, but tonight they're down by 8 with 4:15 to go to the first quarter. Pardon me, fourth quarter, 1st and 10 for BYU. This will end up being a 4-hour game plus. All with good protection.